You're live.
Hey, we're live. Welcome to the 2021 Sticky Awards, where we of On the Stick give out our top 10 27 games of the year list.
Big margin of error on that top 10.
Yeah.
Plus or
Listen,
minus 17 games.
right. When you're dealing with math, sometimes you get numbers that aren't quite even, but this is a mathematically, generated list. So it is also the most accurate game of the year list.
It's the
So
definitive.
yeah, this is
list.
the one. It's also why we go last, because we don't want to make everybody else feel bad. But anyways, I'm Eric Allen. I'm here with Joe Drilling,
I am Joe Drilling, and I'm here with Eric Allen.
and I'm also here with Kurt Adam.
I'm here with both Joe Drilling and Eric Allen.
And all three of us are here with Mike Ailes,
Ahoy, hoy.
who is also like the happy pirate. The happy pirate, Mike Ailes. That's what we call him.
And or Dutch.
Pirates had a good life.
You could be a Dutch pirate. You don't know. That's
You
could be
could.
both.
I mean, I think definitively there were Dutch pirates.
Yes.
there probably were, because it was like the Dutch East India Company, and
Yeah, and they were like, let's sabotage all those other fuckers. Here, have a
okay, wait.
privacy license.
So instead of talking about Dutch pirates, what we're gonna do is talk about the best games of 2021. Yay!
Yay!
The first time hearing about this.
Totally derailed it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So basically, yeah, we
On
all
brand.
make a list, and then we use math to figure out what games are the best, and then we count them down. On this here, used to be a podcast. I don't. What do you call a video on YouTube where you just kind of talk and
Either a video
But it's not
podcast
edited.
or a live
video
stream. It's a
podcast?
live
I
stream.
guess. All right, live stream. All right, whatever. We're gonna hang out and talk
We're
about
vlogging.
it. So, anyways,
It's a dead stream.
I'm gonna make this stuff go away. We're gonna bring this up. Oh, not that one. Oh no, I gave it away.
I didn't see anything.
I saw nothing.
We ain't breaking kayfabe.
There's a list. There is this.
I might have seen something.
Oh no.
Nah, it's
Now
It's
I
not
might have
cheating.
seen. Yeah, now I might have
We're
seen something.
trying to make magic happen here, and I don't have the best tools, and I'm also
Oh, the stick is moving.
always throwing this
What's happening?
together at the last minute. So, anyways, we're gonna start out with our number 24 game, which is Subnautica Below Zero.
Hey, all right. So I promised I'd make this fast, but I have a lot to say.
Right.
So
we got
Subnautica,
about
and
3 minutes. We're gonna spend about three
3
minutes
minutes.
per these early games, and then we'll expand the time as we get closer to the top.
all right, we'll stop cutting into my minutes because I got a lot to say.
Make
So,
like John Machida.
I'm going to speak for our absent colleague Anthony here because we had a very similar experience. We both thought Subnautica was an incredible game, super loved it, very stoked when the sequel came out. We both played the hell out of this game, put it down, and then spent the next couple of months kind of getting gradually more and more disappointed with it, sort of. Like, it's one of those games that in the moment it's super easy to spend time with. Like, I don't know how many hours I played in the space of the first week because I was just super obsessed with it, but it has some big issues that make it a real step down from the first game. The environment is much more small feeling, a lot more indoor maze-like spaces that are really hard to navigate because the game does not give you a proper map. It has a whole bunch of weird on-foot segments that are super, again, really maze-like, and also you're on foot, which is why you don't want to be on foot. This is a game about the ocean. And it also made, I think, a pretty big sin, which is that it makes the giant Leviathan creatures that are so dangerous feel like video game bosses as opposed to like living creatures in an environment, which the first game I think did a really good job of. That said, I still spent like 50 hours playing this game, and like you can see me here in my sick ocean base that I built kind of on the edge of the dangerous zone, and I put as much glass into it as possible so you could appreciate the cool ass giant lily pads and like space whales floating by, which you're gonna see in a second here. And like the game is gorgeous. It's a real step up from the first one in terms of the production values. But in terms of, the story has gone from being this really cool ambient environment thing to being a story with named characters and some cutscenes, and it's just, it doesn't have the same mystique as the first game.
I mean, part of the thing with the first game was that didn't really know that there was gonna be a story until it kind of started to happen, right?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. You
Yeah.
find bits and pieces here and there, and you're like, oh, I can actually string these together, and what? Doesn't change the fact that if they put out another one of these every 2 years, I would play it, and then I would probably complain about it. Like, I enjoyed this game, but I could not bring myself to put it higher on this list because it had a couple of pretty glaring flaws. And if you're at all interested in this series, go back and play the first game. It is better in almost every way.
Okay. I did not put nearly 50 hours into my bottom pick. I just want to put that out there.
This is one of the games on my list I
Jesus,
spent the
Mike.
most time with.
That's on brand for Joe, though.
Well, fair enough. Is it on brand for Mike, though, to spend 50 hours of the game that he apparently only liked enough to put it number 10?
Oh, maybe not. I don't know.
Maybe not. Maybe
but you
not.
know, the things that you love are the things that can hurt you, you know?
Yeah.
Well, that's...
Oh, I have to mention one last thing.
Sure,
you might have noticed that we are driving around in a sea truck. The one really cool part about this game is that they added a new vehicle called the Sea Truck, which is a modular underwater big rig that you can configure to do whatever you want.
So it's Sea Truck Simulator, and that's why you like it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's got modules. It's got like a sleeper cabin that I cannot imagine why anyone would ever build, but you can make one if you want, and I gotta love it for that.
Because you got to check the box, man. It's a thing that I can build. I got to build it.
I was going to say from a practical perspective, because if you're stranded somewhere in deep ocean and you need to sleep, then you want to have a sleeper.
Someplace you can take a nap at the bottom of the sea.
Right. Exactly.
Under the sea. It's better down where it's wetter.
That's when you're literally sleeping with the bridges.
All right. Let's talk about our number 24 game.
Really moving up in the world.
The G Darius HD.
Oh, man. So I struggled with some of these later entries because there were some games that came out this year.
There were some games that came out this year. That's true.
That were remakes.
I'm aware of 24 of them.
Yes, that were remakes that came.
Only
out
24 mattered.
That were remakes of games that came out a lot more years ago than last year, and I struggle with like, should I or shouldn't I? You know, is this, you know, what are my internal rules? And I felt like I was going to put G Darius HD on there. Yes, you could scrub through this part.
I did. I didn't look at this beforehand.
By now, have I not convinced you that there are no rules?
Yeah, I mean, it sort of seems that way. So,
I mean, you put whatever you want on the list. That doesn't mean we're not going to make fun of you for putting something on that isn't new.
So G Darius HD is an M2. It's not a remake; it's a remaster of G Darius, which is one of, if not the best, Darius games. Usually, the two of the PlayStation era, G Darius and Darius Gaiden, are kind of considered to be the two best games in the series.
Right, third best, close third is Darius Rucker Simulator 2020.
That is not accurate.
A through F, and then they got the G.
And then they put you should try the VR version, Joe. It's way better.
So, but
M2 can
M2 really, well, that's funny you should say that, because
wouldn't you be
Darius
Hootie?
is known for its yeah, you would be Hootie,
also
shooting down all of the fish.
Also, welcome to Alex Rio.
Are known for. Yes.
Yeah.
So
I'm so tired.
We go to bed.
G Darius.
No, I can't.
It uses I only have 3 minutes, right? So G Darius has a gimmick that is very similar to a couple other shoot 'em ups where you take enemies and use them as your like sort of secondary weapon. So like Einhander kind of had that, where you could use your one hand to steal weapons from enemies, and sort of famously Gaiaris had a thing where you use the TOZ system to hook onto enemies and steal just their weapons. G Darius, you steal the ship itself, like you use a capture orb, and the ship becomes, you know,
a part of you.
Your option basically. And there's certain mini bosses where you can shoot their shields off and take them over, and then they act as both your bomb and your super beam as well. So if you want to bomb, you lose your satellites if you bomb. And if you want to use your super beam, which is sort of the optimal way, both in terms of quickness and score, to beat a lot of the bosses, you have to sacrifice your satellite ships. And this is just like M2 does fantastic work all the time. This is not technically a part of their Shot Triggers series, but it basically is. You can see the gimmick. I'm taking some time back for Alex, taking up some of my time. You can see the gimmicks on the left and right there that show kind of what your bonus is, how much your beam is powered up, your arm strength. And then the thing that is really great about this game and why I ended up being compelled to put it on the list, even though this feature is not actually part of the game yet, is that they have said that they're going to be adding version 2 of Darius, which was an arcade only update to the board that never came out on the PlayStation, or there's versions of this on PS1 and PS2, but version 2 of the game is not on any of them, and it will be available as an update to this version, which was sort of what clinched it for me, even though wasn't able to play that part 'cause it's still not available
Actually in
yet.
there, yeah.
Yeah, but it's coming, and so that's just really cool that version 2 of the game is finally going to be available in an official capacity outside of buying an arcade board. And so yeah,
See, that's a
it's
good
just,
enough reason to have that on a 2021 list.
yeah, it's just a really great really great shooter of this era, of the 32-bit era, and M2 made it look fantastic. You can play it with like the not up-resed graphics, but I think that they didn't add polygon count, as you can clearly see. They just made everything look cleaner, and I think it looks really sharp.
Looks like
and I really,
like you're
really
running
like
it up-resed in a PlayStation emulator or something.
Basically, yeah.
That's good.
Only with Z buffering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
So
man,
that's
this would be so
HD.
much better if those vertices were jiggling all over the place.
Popping back and forth.
Yeah. Well, listen, we'll
Yeah.
talk about games with jiggly
Well,
vertices maybe later on in the show. But
Oh,
for now, let's move on
this
to
podcast rated M for mature.
Psychonauts 2,
Number 24 game of the
the
year.
number 24 game of the
Hey,
year.
that's me, I guess.
Hey, that's you.
Hey, that's me.
You're a Psychonaut, Kurt.
I am a Psychonaut. I think it's well established at this point that I'm a adventure kind of dude and enjoy this sort of thing. I think we've even talked about Psychonauts in the past, so I was already on board. I played the VR game that's in between 1 and 2 and enjoyed that as well. But you know, for a game that I would have never ever expected to have ever had happen, given the exigencies of the video game world these days, you know, I'm pretty delighted it actually came out. If anyone played the original, this isn't wildly different. It's more polished. You know, it doesn't have a incredibly bad final level. It's not necessarily quite as inventive in some of the you know, exploration of people's minds as in the first one. There's there's nothing as bad as the Meat Circus. There's also nothing as good as the Milkman Conspiracy. But
Milk was
that's
delicious.
Yeah,
That's okay. I think I would take that trade, honestly.
probably.
Yeah.
I mean, it still exists. You can still go and play it. And I think this game also has a better story. You know, and just better. It's cleaner overall. You know, from a gameplay perspective and so on. I mean, Psychonauts was kind of the first game that Double Fine really worked on, and so it's. You know, they even admit that at the time they kind of weren't really sure what they were doing something like that in 3D, and they were really ambitious.
And it took a long time and nearly
it
got
took a long
canceled several times.
Yeah, it nearly did
Yeah.
get canceled several times and finally came back.
It
So
seems
it's
like
kind of a
that was
miracle
kind of
that
what
it
happened with
exists.
this also, is that after they got scooped up with Microsoft, it went back into the kitchen for several years and kind of got to blow this out and really make it into what they
Yeah, I
wanted.
think that I was going to say, I think the Microsoft acquisition allowed them, you know, I suspect that, you know, whoever, you know, their sort of corporate overlord is, probably was like, you know, we could make this even better if we gave you guys some more time. So let's do that, and then we can, you know, stick it on Game Pass, and it's fine if it is just an opportunity for us to get more Game Pass subscriptions. So, which I guess is a plug for Game Pass. You don't even have to buy it. You can go get Game Pass if you don't already have it, which is a fantastic value for money, and you can give it try yourself.
For now, it is.
Um,
I quite enjoy. This is one of several games that I played a couple of hours of this year, and then never quite managed to get back to. But I thought it was
Yeah.
like I love the art style. Like
The art style is
the
great.
upgraded version of the PS2 art is just really incredible, and also the like the way you manage powers in this game is a little bit better than in the old game. So.
I wouldn't maybe brag about that. It's still maybe kind of the weakest part of this game for me is the constant having to switch between stuff. But yeah, I did play a chunk of it and I liked it. If I could have convinced my son that he liked it, we would have played more. But sadly, that didn't really work out for us. But I did get to the game show part and I thought it was really good.
I think this game is
show is a really good level.
This little bit here where you clairvoyant the rat. That's from the other game, but that's still an amazing gag.
Yeah,
where you become the rat and then look at yourself and you look like a
there's a lot of opportunities in various places to clairvoyant yourself to somebody else and get, sometimes it's very rote, but every once in a while you come upon somebody that's got a very particular point of view.
And
that's always a good joke.
Tim Schafer's still great.
Yep.
Glad Tim Schafer.
But maybe you should tell us about our 24th game.
We should talk about the number 24 game, which is Super Auto Pets.
How do you have so many games?
Super Auto Pets it's an auto battler in the line of, so the lineage is like that weird Dota mod called Dota Auto Chess there was like a League of Legends one called Teamfight Tactics. There was an official Dota one called Underlords. There's a Hearthstone one called Battlegrounds, which is probably the best of and most accessible of all of these. This one is something that some people kind of just like threw together on Steam.
I gotta say, Eric played a lot of this.
I played a lot of this. I played a lot of it on my phone. It became like the thing that I did while I was going to the bathroom a lot. It's all of the art is just emojis. That's
but it's super cute.
It's very cute. And so basically what it is, it's a very simplified auto battler game where you're trying to assemble a team that will give you the best odds of winning from like a pool of characters. The more powerful the characters are, the less of them you see. And in this game, the big difference between this game and most of the other of these is that you don't play against, like in most of the other ones, it's usually like there's an 8-person lobby and you like rotate through all of the people in the lobby. And in this game, and so because of that, like there's strict time limits on everything. And in this game, you're just thrown into this giant pool. And so everybody that is on turn 5 could theoretically play against each other. And that means that you can take as much time as you want between turns. You can start a game one day and finish it like a couple days later if you want. So you really get to play it on your own time, and you really get to think through all of your decisions. And
did you name your own team?
Yes, they give you like some verbs and nouns to pick from, and then you get to make your
team.
That
gets great.
Yeah.
Does that mean you could not know if you won a game for like a couple days?
Well, no, because it takes a snapshot of this person's team on turn 5 and your team on turn 5, and then they fight. So
so you're getting matched with different people every round?
Yeah,
basically?
You're getting
like different groups of players.
Yes, it's just like a giant pool of
kind of
players.
Who's ever online at the time you take your turn, you'll get matched up.
Yeah, I honestly I don't even know if it's just, I don't know if you have to be online at the same time as them, or if it just grabs from like
the
like
history
it just
of
stores
the game.
like a bunch of snapshots of teams on turn 5 or what. But but like I said, it's nice to be able to play one of these where you can really think through all of your decisions. It's also mechanically like way less complicated than most of the other games. You still can like level things, and there's still like some units are scaling and some units have abilities that proc during the battle, and you're trying to figure out how to build your best team. But it's, there's nothing as complicated as doing like a Exodia pirate build in Hearthstone or whatever, or in Battlegrounds. But it's a fun, cute thing that you can play in your spare time. And like there'll be another game on this list that I played with some friends. It's a strategy game, and there'd be times where I had kind of figured out my turn and they were still talking about stuff, and I got to kill some time playing this. And then also during this thing, I built this really cool build with a deer with melon armor and a kangaroo and a dragon and a penguin and and I was able to actually win the second one. Like you can see, you know, when your deer dies, it summons a bus that does cleave damage to the next character in line. And because I gave that deer melon armor and put it in front of a kangaroo, the kangaroo scaled every time the deer attacked, and then usually the deer would get 2 or 3 attacks, and the bus would get an attack, and the kangaroo would scale up really big, and I was able to win on turn 12, which is pretty fast.
Did the kangaroo buff on the bus attacks is the question.
Yeah. So the kangaroo buffs itself every time the pet ahead of it attacks.
Oh, okay.
And so, yeah, and then you get like a level 2 kangaroo, and it gets +4/+4, and then you get 2 level 2 things, and a penguin that buffs all your level 2 guys, and then the dragon buffs your whole team when you play a level 1 unit, and then the fly summons a 5/5 when the other things die, so that gave an additional buff to the kangaroo, and the kangaroo just fucking farmed everybody. And because it scaled so fast and I was able to do it so early, and because I got like a lucky roll with the turtle that gave my deer melon armor by, you know, euthanizing it. I don't know. Anyway, it's cool. It is a simplified one of these. It's really cute, and you can play it on your own time, and I think it's good. And
the
that's
new
Super Auto Pets.
recommended on the stick pooping game.
Yeah. I don't know if it's
Now you said you could play it on your phone. Were you also playing it?
Yeah, like you have
yes,
you have an
you have an
account
account. Okay.
that is specific to Super Auto Pets, and so you log into that, and so you can play a game on Steam for a bit and then go to bed and then get up in the morning the next day and go and take a poop and finish that game if you want or whatever. So yeah, it's good.
All right.
Right. What about our 24th best game?
I think we're off 24.
22nd best game of the year.
22nd
I
best game.
apologize.
Yeah, see,
We're
this
really
is
moving up in the world
the
here.
problem with this when I have to talk is that then it slows me down on the transitions. But yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead with what?
Our
Yeah, go
22
ahead,
games.
Mike.
Your
isn't
22nd best
yeah,
game is
22. Oh, you're not looking at the
Waterworld
list.
Kaizo.
Waterworld Kaizo.
Waterworld, the Kaizo game. All right, I don't have enough time to speak about the year in Kaizo in general. I will say that Baba Yaga, the hack creator who was previously known for a game called Bookie Wonderland, he took upon himself the challenge to make a Mario hack that was nothing but water levels. And I don't know what you know about platformers, but
That sounds awful.
Yeah, that
people
sounds terrible.
hate
Yep.
water levels. Now, if you ask me personally, I think Super Mario World is the only platformer game to make water actually fun because you have a pretty good degree of control. But that's not enough to please most people.
I mean,
So,
they're fine in moderation. Like the occasional water level in a Super Mario game is fine. If every level being a water level,
Well, so the thing with this game is that you're not actually spending that much time swimming because the Baba used all of the different. What is this video that's?
It's
popping up?
Kevin Costner in
peeing,
Waterworld
yeah,
peeing in
yeah,
the
great,
thing so he can
thanks.
drink it. Yeah.
Great, that's wonderful. This hack uses every possible configuration of different ways you can have water in a Mario level. Could you please make that go away? The Kevin Costner
Oh,
thing.
you don't like that?
Can we? I really kind of don't know.
Kind of distracting.
So like in this first level, for example, the water is going to be on what we call layer 2, which is the layer that moves in Mario World. And so here, like the water is this left-right kind of slow cycle going back and forth. So you're constantly having to transition from side to side and like time your stuff so that you're either fast enough or slow enough that you're catching the water wall as it comes into view. So like the swimming portion is only like a little bit of what you're doing. There's a lot of kind of finagling your way around it. This is one of the, I would say, the nicest looking Kaizo hacks that I've played so far. Just like really nice choices in the palettes, great music in the soundtrack, which ironically, a lot of it comes from the Super Nintendo Waterworld game. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that game, but it has a banging soundtrack. Yes, Kurt?
There was a chunk there where you got hit and went up from there, and were able to jump back into the water. Is that an intended path?
Yes,
there
that's
where you
a damage
sacrifice-
boost.
Okay.
Fun Kaizo fact: if you have gotten a power up of some kind, you need to use it. And if you get a mushroom, the only reason you got a mushroom is because you could either take damage on some spikes or something, or else break some blocks with it and then lose it. Probably by taking damage on some spikes.
Okay.
Anyway, it's just a really creative game, really nice aesthetic, and it makes your brain think in different ways. It is my most recent speedrun obsession. I'm trying to get my time down to below half an hour on this one, and it's harder than the ones I've done in the past, so that's going to take some work. But yeah, so far been enjoying it a lot.
Are there any 2D Mario games that, like, because I know there are 3D Mario games that use this mechanic of like the water moves and you can go in and out of the water as your, like Super Mario 3D World has some of that stuff towards the end. Are there any 2D Mario games that actually do that have the moving water like this, or is this the only
I'm aware of? Here at the end of the level, you have to keep that block with you so that when you hit the gold tape, it becomes a mushroom so that you're big. Otherwise, you don't go into the pipe and you walk off to the end of the screen to your death.
Great.
Because Baba is a big old troll.
I hate this. I hate this.
Anyway, it's really fun.
Yeah,
that looks neat. That looks like a Kaizo. That looks like a good Kaizo mod thing.
I mean, it's on my top 10 of the year list, so it is a good one.
Yeah.
As Mike said, it is really pretty.
Well, Alex wasn't here. I think did you put Subnautica at the beginning, Eric? So Alex definitely wouldn't be here to hear Mike talk about Subnautica.
We don't need to revisit. We need to move on. We need to keep going.
I do. Just take a quick second to appreciate the second level here, which uses the Smashy Layer 2 effect. Not every level in this game uses water on Layer 2, but a bunch of them do. And so this is one where the water comes up and then drops down quickly. And so again, you have to, instead of being side to side, it's up and down, and you have to make sure that you're jumping out of the water with the right kind of jump at the right time so that it doesn't just drop you down a hole whenever it disappears.
For more creative water ideas like these, please play Waterworld. Now on to
our 22nd best
22.
game of the year.
Yeah.
I just want to point out that I put this above Subnautica.
Yeah.
And they came out like the same day practically.
I sense a theme.
What a week for you.
I'm sensing a theme here. So,
All
hey,
right.
speaking of re-releases of video games,
Speaking
I
of
felt
water,
conflicted about putting on this list. This is Eric playing not the correct version of this game, I don't think.
I don't have the thing to play it, so I mean it's the same fucking game, so don't worry about it.
So, I mean, I could have just like stolen some footage from someone else if you wanted some, but Resident Evil 4 VR. I also don't have the thing to play this, which is why I couldn't record footage of it, because my nephews have an Oculus 2. And when I visited them late last year, I just said to my brother-in-law, I was like, hey, man, I'm just going to buy them Resident Evil 4 VR so I can play it. And
you said they're 6 years old, Joe.
One of them is, that's true.
And you said you're never too young to learn about.
I said you're never too young to start
getting
playing
your head
Resident
chopped off
Evil.
with a chainsaw.
That's
to
right.
suplex the guy.
To suplex
head
some
explodes.
guys in
And then
virtual
worms
reality.
come out. Yeah.
So Resident Evil 4 VR changes. I felt good about this one because it changes. Like I was more conflicted about G Darius. Resident Evil 4 VR it definitely is Resident Evil 4, but
it's also VR.
Whoa.
It's such a different version of Resident Evil 4 that it's practically a new game.
How is it different?
So you can move while shooting, which is a lot of people love to complain about that.
Get
right?
out! Get off the stage!
Right? You can also double fist not every kind of weapon, but you can hold a shotgun in one hand and a pistol in the other, although you have to cock
Dude,
the
this
shotgun
game sounds... Oh my god.
to reload it. Like all your stuff is on your body, so you don't have to like quit out to the menu. Like your shotgun's on your back, your pistol's on your hip, your grenades are on your chest. So you can just grab whatever. You can throw a grenade with your left hand while you shoot with your right hand. The shooting feels really good. The Oculus controllers are really good for that.
Is this only on Oculus?
Right now it is only on Oculus, but I'm hoping, I mean, Capcom infamously ports everything to everything.
Especially when it's Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, right. So hopefully it will come to like PSVR or whatever.
I think someone has hacked it to work with stuff.
Yeah,
like the Steam headset at least. So
probably.
I was taking a bite of a banana. Can I just say that this is an exclusive game? Okay, thank you.
Alex will be here all weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget to tip your waitresses. So the thing that I liked about the Oculus, there's a bunch of things I don't like about the Oculus. Primarily that it's owned by Meta and they can fuck all the way off.
Who?
But
don't.
The thing that is nice
Never heard of
about
it.
the Oculus is that it has no wires, which means that you can play this, like, I found a spot in a room that was like had like flat hardwood floors and plenty of space, so I could just use 360, turn my head, turn my body, and play the game that way. Now granted, I can only play for like 30 to 45 minutes at a clip because you start getting like almost like seasick a little
Yeah.
bit, and like you start sweating, but it's just like I said, it's such a different take on this game, and it's kind of sold me on the idea of, maybe porting certain games to VR could add something to them. And if you have the means to check it out, and again, hopefully it comes to other platforms and other storefronts, but it really is, especially if you like, this is one of my favorite games of all time, one of my favorite games in the Resident Evil series, and experiencing it in a new way, and just the tactile nature of like pulling the pin out of the grenade before you throw it, and cocking the shotgun, and all of that stuff is just super cool and a lot of fun. And
When I've seen, it's a great way to do inventory Tetris as well.
Yes, and the inventory Tetris is a lot of fun. Yep,
It's
absolutely.
now
Time
the
is up,
best
but I'm
VR
gonna
Tetris
ask.
game.
Yeah. Oh no, that's definitely not true.
When we were talking about Resident Evil things and such, there was discussion about this in the HD version. Is it the HD version or an
No,
unreleased version
no.
somehow, or no? Okay.
The team that made it, I think they're called Armature or something like that. They literally rebuilt Resident Evil 4 from the ground up in Unreal Engine, whatever, 4 or 5 or whatever the current one is.
Four is
Okay.
5 is the one that will be everything will be on soon. So
the thing that is a little frustrating, of course, especially in light of the fact that the HD mod for the Steam version just hit version 1 this week or
it's
last
pretty
week.
nice.
They use basically all the same textures, like they're up-resed, but like what Eric is playing right now, it looks a lot like this. It looks slightly better, but it doesn't look nearly as good as the HD mod.
Yeah.
But it looks better. But they rebuilt the game in Unreal Engine, but using basically the same assets. Hey, it's that dog. There's still only like 4 or 5 enemy types. They all look the same and all that stuff, but it is rebuilt in Unreal Engine. Yeah.
All right.
All
So on to number 21, which is Guardians of the Galaxy. Which
I mean, someone's got to guard this galaxy.
I put that on my list. I think I was the only one. I was probably the only one that actually played it.
No, I wanted to rate it.
Yeah, I wanted to play it. That's one I missed.
I
regret not playing it since you liked it so much, and you don't even like Marvel.
I was
Everyone
say
says it's
I don't
good,
like.
yeah.
I don't really like Marvel stuff. I don't really like superhero stuff. It's some of it's just my distaste for like the super over budget movies, and they're so bloated, and I just find them really unpleasant to watch at a certain point. But anyway, so this game is based. Like it's kind of like, I mean, it's obviously based on the property of the comic books, but it's there's a lot of stuff in here that Square Enix kind of put their own spin on, and like there's stuff that is in the comic books, but is kind of like like they're reassessing how that stuff all works for the video game version. And it doesn't really have anything to do with the movies either. How comic book stuff is. At some point they'll probably connect all of that stuff together. But
Right.
But yeah, so like Square is obviously hoping to cash in on the popularity of Marvel, and they released a not so great Avengers game last year, I think 2020.
Yeah, I mean that was what was
kind of
honestly
like
what kept me from playing this
Yeah.
until you started saying you liked it, because that Avengers game fucking sucked.
Yeah, people said that the campaign was kind of okay, but the multiplayer stuff, which was supposed to be almost like a Destiny-esque
service.
Loot
Live
grind.
service.
Yeah.
Oh
it
man,
just
that
didn't work.
Europe album cover really takes me back.
But anyway, so this game
Eric
is
picked the right song.
This game is set. Oh hell yeah, I did. So anyway, this game is set kind of after. It's not like an origin story for the Guardians. It's kind of like they've already met and they've done some missions, but they don't really like each other that much.
Yeah,
They're
it seems to me that it's kind of placed. It's not necessarily in the continuity, but if you wanted to think about it, between the first and second movies.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely leaning on the lineup is the same as the movies.
Right.
you
Well,
know,
so there's
it's-
characters in this game that aren't in the movies and don't have anything to do with the movies, and some of them are characters that like are in the Guardians and various comic incarnations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's like a whole, like I said, they cast a very wide net and then like jigger a lot of that stuff. But anyway,
Sample.
this game you play as Peter Quill exclusively. It's kind of like a third person action game where you run around and shoot guys, and then since you're kind of the leader of the team, you get to tell them to do stuff, and you unlock, like, as you play, you unlock new powers for all the characters, and then you can kind of like combo their powers into doing things. And then as you're running around in the environments, you can kind of make them do stuff. So like if there's a little hole, you can tell Rocket to go through it, and if there's like an anchor point and you need a bridge, you can have Groot make a bridge across. So you can have Drax pick up a big rock and throw it. You know, like it's real pretty basic stuff as far as all that's concerned. But the thing that really sets this game apart is the writing. And the first thing is just the sheer, like, it's like a 20-hour game, but it must have as much dialogue as like some 100-hour RPGs, because it doubles and triples.
Do not stop talking.
Yeah, it doubles and triples down on the fact that like these are characters who are interacting with each other. It's kind of like, it's almost like Mass Effect, but instead of it literally does the thing that they do in Mass Effect, where you're like walking around the ship and talking with characters in between missions to see how they're feeling and stuff. But while you're walking around in the world, they're just talking to each other constantly. Like they never stop talking, and they don't just talk to Peter, they talk to each other. And so it really feels like, you know, when you're out hanging out with your friends and you're walking around and having a conversation, and people are having different conversations.
Shooting bugs.
And so as Peter, you can like make dialogue choices occasionally. It's usually like a binary thing, or it's like you're picking sides or whatever. But it feels good to, you know, like watch these people like go through all this stuff and fight with each other, and then kind of learn like more about each other, and then like figure out how to be a team. And also it's fucking gorgeous, man. Like this has some of the best,
really
like, and this is the first area in the game, and it like you almost never like go back to the same area twice. There's just like a bunch of really, really awesome looking things. And so it's like a kind of a mediocre action game, but when you add in all the dialogue and the fact that the writing is pretty good and the story is, I think, really good, and then you put that on with the fact that all the environments look really cool, it's just like a really fun third person
story
game.
adventure
game. This was the people who did Deus Ex, wasn't it? Or no?
Yeah, it is. I think those people. So, you know, this is
not the original Deus Ex, but the two recent.
But I was really impressed by the writing, especially because there was definitely a point where I was like getting 10 hours in. I was like, this has got to be almost over with. And it's like, oh no, you're halfway through the game. And I almost got out at that point, and then I pushed forward a little bit, and then it got its hooks back into me quite a bit. Because like, whatever. I'm not going to recap the whole story, but we should move on. But it's way, way better than I expected it to be.
Do you know who wrote it? Was it people who work on the comics?
I don't know. I think it's just, it seemed like a team of people who are familiar with the comics and were excited to be able to use all that stuff, but maybe not necessarily connected to it directly.
I think the stuff that I saw on Twitter looked like it was just people that worked at Eidos.
Yeah.
But that could be, you know,
that's pretty impressive if that. Okay, so I have two very quick questions before we leave this game behind, Eric.
Sure.
One, is Nolan North in this game?
I don't know. I don't think so. It's like most of the cast. I looked up some of the cast after I finished it, and it seemed like mostly names that I didn't recognize.
Okay.
Like a lot of young
at
voice
least
actors.
not. I'm looking.
He's not like Star-Lord.
He's not Star-Lord.
No.
None of the
In
main
fact,
characters
one of the
are North
main
for
complaints people have is that Star-Lord's character is kind of like a douchey frat guy sounding, but I think it's appropriate for the character, and also it gives him a lot of it gives him a lot of space to kind of grow.
So my more important question, though, is that you said there's a bunch of characters who kind of come in and out who are in the comics and stuff.
Yeah.
Is Howard the Duck in this game?
No, there's no Howard the Duck. There is like
Ah.
Mantis, who's
Okay, yeah.
who's like a
Yeah.
big character. There's Cosmo the dog, which is like he was the Russian dog that got sent into space. And he
That
got
Laika?
yeah, basically he's that, but he like landed on a satellite that was like the hollowed out skull of a dead god that still had like some psycho powers left into it, and he
Yeah.
absorbed those powers
Nope.
and then can use the he can use like the dead god to like teleport people places like through these giant like astral hands. Like there's some batshit stuff in the Guardians of the Galaxy thing, and they use a lot of that pretty well.
Nice.
Well, we'll have to play the game and find out.
You should. It's good. Anyways, number 20, Joe, is No More Heroes 3.
So, speaking of kind of mediocre action games with a lot of personality,
Mhm.
Hey.
This is the kind of
Uh,
mediocre games with a lot of personality area.
this is absolutely that.
And great art
it's-
styles as well.
And great art styles,
Yeah.
yeah. So if you like, here's my pitch on No More Heroes 3. Did you like No More Heroes 1 and No More Heroes 2? If
One,
you
but
did,
not two.
you'll probably you might like it.
Okay.
50-50 chance.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it is a little
50-50,
bit
either you'll
more,
like it or you won't.
it is a little bit more like No More Heroes 1. In terms of like the open world is a little bit more of a thing than it was in 2. Like they kind of took that out of 2, which is one of the things that I liked about 2.
Yeah.
But
Quote,
basically,
world.
this is
Yeah.
the story in this one is that and the whole thing opens with this like anime opening of it's like a retelling of E.T. where this little cute little alien gets found by a little boy and they're best friends, and then the alien has to go home back to his home planet, so the little boy helps him build a rocket. And he goes back home to his home planet, but he promises he'll be back in 20 years to like catch up. So 20 years later, the alien comes back and he's a total fucking dickhead. And he's been exiled from his home planet because he's like a genocidal maniac, but he also talks like a California beach bum. And he's now coming to try and conquer the Earth. And he's got a bunch of other like exiled aliens from different planets with him. But the Assassin Association from the first 2 games is keyed in that this is a good way to make money, so now they're ranking the aliens. And so Travis, of
Right.
course, has to enter at number 10 on the rankings list and kill the 9 aliens ahead of him to once again become the top ranked assassin in the world, and as a byproduct of that, save the planet from a hostile alien invasion.
That sounds right.
So that's where we're at. This game, apparently it gets even weirder. Like I haven't gotten as far as I might have liked before we talked about it, which is kind of why it got so low on my rankings. But it's got a lot of wrestling moves, and it's got a lot of weird alien enemies that you fight, as you can see here, which is part of what I think makes it a little more fun. And like there's a lot of like just generic dudes in suits that you fight in the first 2 games when you're not like fighting the interesting bosses. And all of the like cannon fodder enemies in this game are weird aliens with weird attacks that you fight in a variety of weird environments. And also Travis can turn into a giant fighting robot now.
Sure.
So that is a thing. There's like sort of almost Star Fox style boss fights where you fight like a giant space monster in your giant fighting robot suit. And it's full of, Suda 51 humor and dialogue, and again, your mileage may vary on that stuff. I really didn't like Killer is Dead. I really liked the first 2 No More Heroes games, so like my mileage varies on that. This one is good from what I played, and apparently there are sections later where like the gameplay just kind of goes off the rails. It turns into practically an entire different game. Like I guess minor spoilers, but someone spoiled it for me. Apparently there's a stage where it just turns into Smash Brothers. Like
Sure.
you're playing a 2D platform brawler that is,
That
Smash
was
Brothers and everything, but
Some of the stuff they did
name.
in 2 that really didn't work for me, like there's that motorcycle fight, right, where it's just like
the motorcycle fight is dog shit.
right. Well,
in
it's not
2.
just that it's
That's-
bad, but it's also hard. So it's just like
Right.
frustrating and awful and not that easy to win. Like you could get away with doing that if it was easy. So like that's the kind of stuff that I don't know. Plus there's a certain amount of Suda like leering at women stuff that I kind of get tired of at a
So
certain
this
point.
game doesn't have
say
very
you
much
dead?
of that. Yes. This game doesn't have much of that. I mean, Sylvia is still a character in
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
and there's a little bit of Travis like drooling over her, but it's not like Killer is Dead, where there's like a mini game dedicated to leering at women.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
not yet, at least. So
There's still time.
yeah, there's still time. I haven't finished it, so who knows? But
Yeah.
yeah, I like it. I think it seems from what I've seen from both Suda and like people who played more of the game than I have that like this is it. Like there's not going to be another one of these
Yeah.
more than likely.
I heard some
So,
cool stuff about some other things in this game too, so I don't know. I might
yeah,
check it out. at
I
some
heard
point,
it gets
but-
pretty wild. So mostly I just like suplexing aliens. So
Yeah.
you know.
And who
All right.
doesn't?
We
And who
should move
doesn't?
on to number
20.
18,
No,
which is Forza Horizon 5.
Yeah.
there's cars in this one.
This is our first game that multiple people voted for, right?
There's cars in this one. I don't. You and Kurt maybe.
That sounds right.
I don't.
Well,
have
I
that
voted
list
for
in front of
it.
me.
Wait, actually, did I?
I was
vote for
going
it?
to, and they took it out. Yes, Mike definitely voted for
All
it.
right. Well, guess what? Forza Horizon 5 is another one of those, which means it's super fun.
Holy crap! They did it again.
I mean, I think we all played a bunch. Well, Eric and I at least played a bunch of Forza Horizon 4, and I think this one we all got our hands on in some way, shape, or form. And I don't know what to say about it aside from they made the world look a lot nicer. It's a
Yeah.
much more interesting setting.
Yeah.
It's got like jungles and deserts and mountains and oceans and a whole metric fuck ton of expensive ass cars for you to drive around.
Yep.
And the
You can
cars
still-
are cool and they go fast.
You
And
can still
Eric is
drive
Mr.
through.
T.
You can still drive through fences, and they fly apart real fun, which is a great thing that they carried over from the fourth one.
you can jump off a ramp in your Koenigsegg and fly like 600 meters, which is completely ridiculous. It's got a bunch of goofy like story missions, including at least one where you drive a giant pinata float from a parade, which was kind of fun. And I don't know, it's Forza.
It is. Yep.
It just makes me happy. Is the thing.
It feels
Well, it's,
good.
it's Forza Horizon, which is I think is an
Different.
important
Yeah.
distinction because the Forza Motorsport games I do not enjoy
Right.
at
Those are
all.
the-
I've never
And
played one of those.
Those are the car tweaker
They're very
games.
technical and
They're
very
very
racing
technical.
focused.
Yes,
And this has that, but also lets you just kind of do crazy shit and
this is
drive around however
basically-
you want.
Yeah, this
Enjoy
is as close to Burnout Paradise as I think we're likely to get again.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I think this is way better than
is-
Burnout Paradise.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, it
It's
just
just-
feels good to drive the cars, and you get to kind of rotate through them, and like
Feels
the,
good. It looks great.
The road
It's like just
races
such a-
and the dirt races and all that stuff is different enough. And this is I do kind of miss the seasons from 4, but this is definitely a more varied and
I
interesting.
heard they change
setting
everything.
Then that's true. They do. That's true. They do change everything. But yeah, this is just this setting is a little bit more like the one in Forza Horizon 3, which was set in Australia, where you just because you get
Yeah,
like a desert
one.
and a jungle and stuff, it feels a
It's
little
a
bit
lot of-
better as you're exploring around. So yeah,
It's
fun.
just one of my
I-
favorite turn your brain off games. Download
Yeah.
some stupid custom paint jobs from the store. Drive around in your anime lady car.
Absolutely, yeah.
Hell yeah.
I mean, there's a 1967 GTO, which I really appreciate. So
Great teacher
Um,
Onizuka car.
yes, it's almost like they gave him those
Probably
initials
both of-
for a reason.
Probably both
Uh,
of those things are in this game, though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right,
probably.
right. You can probably get a Great Teacher Onizuka skin for the 1967 GTO, I would imagine.
And that's why it's our number 20-ish game.
That's right. I didn't put this on my list because I didn't play quite enough of it to really say. But the night that we all played together for a couple hours, I did have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah,
Um,
I had it on my larger list and culled it.
Yep,
Yeah, me
same.
too.
I would
This
have put it
is-
higher up if it had not been for the fact that I played Forza Horizon 4 pretty recently, and that game was just like this game.
Yeah.
So
For me, it
Yep.
was just I didn't play a ton of it because I played so much of 3 and 4. I was just like, oh yeah, this is like that, but in a different spot. But yeah, it's good.
Nice. And now our 18th game.
Yeah, we should do number 18, which is
Number 18.
Number 18, a
Valheim.
classic 18, Valheim, the Viking fighting and building crafting game, which I think this was the
Oh
game.
wow, was that last year?
It came out in January.
Hey,
it's
must
not
be
even
a
out
bit
initially,
early.
is it? Oh, you
That's-
have footage of the leak.
That's
of
why I
my-
started laughing.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. This is good.
Yeah.
This
So
is
anyway,
good.
so
Yeah, this is
Valheim
extremely
is a
good.
game that, you know, it's one of them games where you punch trees to make wood and then find some stones and mix it with the wood to make an axe so you can knock trees down faster.
Survival game,
Yeah, it's
I
a
guess.
So you
survival
can
game.
beat goblins
Minecraft.
faster or whatever.
Minecraft, Ark, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is the one of those that I enjoyed the most by far. I love the
Yeah.
way it looks. It kind of looks like a PlayStation game. It has like the weird pixely textures, and but I think it's really beautiful. I think that this is probably the game world I enjoyed being in the most from 2021. Especially
And
when it's
lucky for you, there was a lot of it.
there is a lot of it. It proc gens these gigantic maps, and some of them are quite pretty and fun to explore. Some of them are a little frustrating to explore, but but the thing that really sets this apart from a lot of those other games, for me anyway, is that it has like halfway decent combat, which is a huge upgrade from your
Yeah.
Minecrafts or your Arcs or most of the other games where the combat is kind of dog shit and you just kind of have to put up with it. Like this game does like a reasonable approximation of like a Dark Souls kind of thing where you're, you know, in third person, you have a stamina meter and you can dodge roll out of the way of things. And it was just a pretty, I remember like, I think Mike and I played it together the very first night, like not long after the thing dropped. And, you know, we were having fun kind of goofing around and then we met our first troll and it just fucking wrecked us.
Scared us shitless.
Yeah. It's like there's like these little, I forget what they're called, but they're like little goblin dudes running around.
Like
and then-
drawers or something like that.
yeah, and then you go too far into the forest, and this troll that's like 10 times your size like comes out and is like knocking down trees
giant
and
club
kills
and
you
just
in
like
one
whack.
hit. And yeah, and so you know you do the thing where you like you mine ore, and then you can make better armor, and then you can fight monsters in different biomes a little easier. And a lot of that stuff I kind of cut out by just you could, if you were the admin of the server or if you had a mind to, you could just like leave a server and you know, generate a bunch of resources and then take them with you in your character inventory. And I did that for most of the like I did like one cycle legitimately, and then for the most part after that I just cheated my way through because I don't want to punch rocks for 5 hours to make ore. And also, like, this game does have a huge world, and you can make teleporters, but you can't teleport metal ore through. So it's like a pain in the ass to like cart that stuff back and forth. And one of my favorite things, the thing I actually spent the most time doing, was building this giant tree fort that you're seeing in this video. Because of the way that the building system works in this game, you can stick things to trees and it counts as like a base, like a floor, as if it's on the ground. And so you can just put platforms in trees and build like some kind of awesome structures. And yeah, and one night we were streaming it and I put a teleporter on the edge of my giant thing that was so high up, like the top of my little structure here was so high it actually was above the frost line. So it was just like snowing constantly up there. But yeah, this was I think a really fun game, and like I said, I really enjoyed being in that world. And I
Spent a whole bunch of time at the beginning of the last year just dicking around doing this.
yeah, and I had fun. Like I would like generate resources, and then like Kurt and Mike and Alex and a couple of our other friends like would pop in and make some armor, and then we would go fight one of the bosses. And I thought that
Pretty
was
intense
fun.
boss fights, very long.
Yeah, especially that one against the gooey guy. That was a
That
little too
that one in
long,
the
but
swamp, I remember you guys
sucked.
were.
was a
yeah.
little
In a
too
like
much.
good way.
Yeah, yeah,
But-
it was pretty cool. Like, but the one against the deer is really good, and there's a dragon that you can fight. That's a pretty fun boss. That I did that one by myself, I think, because by that time everybody else kind of moved on. But
Yeah, I like this game, but it's pitched, it's balanced for someone who's got a whole hell of a lot more time to spend on it than I do.
Yeah.
And you can do things like you said to kind of skip the grind, but if you take the grind out, I kind of don't
What's the
exactly know
point?
what the point is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I really need like a version of this game where everything accelerates like 5 times faster than it is now,
right,
but you actually get to do it all.
or just if you could just find armor by exploring, that'd be
Maybe.
fine. You know, like a version where you can play it more like a Dark Souls or whatever, where
Yeah.
you explore and then you go into the crypt and you find the bronze armor instead of finding the place where you can mine the bronze to turn into ingots, to turn into ore,
Yeah.
to turn into armor, whatever, you know.
I mean, early award for best skybox of the year.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah, with the
Nighttime,
weird tree
nighttime
bits.
looking up at the sky and seeing Yggdrasil, the world tree, was just amazing.
Well, you're out on the boat in the middle
Yeah,
of the
when
ocean.
I was gonna say when you get on a boat
yeah.
and just tool around and
Yeah.
then
Oh,
end
we had
up
a lot
having
of
your boat
boat
get wrecked.
adventures.
We had a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
fun in boats. Yeah, it's a great boat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's a cool game. It's not done either, right?
No, it's not
an
even
early
close.
No.
There's still like 2 bosses that I think aren't even in the game yet. Like most of the stuff that they updated it with was all like cosmetic things for people putting in their houses. But I think that the building system is actually pretty good and robust and pretty easy to use, especially for a game that's not entirely grid based like a Minecraft. I feel like a lot of the ones that I've test drove. Other crafting games, it's pretty hard to like stick things together to make structures, and in this game I thought it was pretty easy to do that stuff and
Agreed.
get a satisfying result. So
Yeah.
I don't know, it's neat. When it's done, or I don't know if this will ever be done. Sometimes these games are never actually done, but I might go back and put some more time into it at some point. But for now, it's time to move on to our
To
number
number 15.
15, which for now
15 already.
is, let's say it's Back 4 Blood.
Yeah.
Did
Back
we
Up
all
Foot
put
Blood
this
is a-
on our list in some?
I
did not.
I didn't, but I could have. It's
I could
pretty,
have,
It's
yeah.
pretty damn good. It's fun. It's quite a bit of fun.
It's a fun ass video game. I think I was expecting not much out of this game, being like, oh, we're making another Left 4 Dead game. All right, sure, why not? But like Left 4 Dead 2 was so good and had so much stuff in it. Like, and I don't want to say this game surpasses Left 4 Dead 2 because I don't think it does on like an absolute scale. But it was way more fun than I was expecting to be. I thought the card system gave you some fun ways to mix up how your characters behaved, and that combined with the characters' intrinsic abilities gave you a lot of different approaches you could take.
Yeah.
I do say I feel like the game has a real distinct lack of personality. Like I could not say I'm not attached to any one of the characters that you played, but it plays really well. And they do a fun couple
There's
of
no
twists
Alice.
on the zombies.
There's no Alice. But
Yeah, I agree. And but it does. The card system is a new thing, and I think that really worked. They made an effort to make level variety, even if it didn't always work. Different levels.
It didn't help that they used the same geometry many times through the campaign.
Yeah.
Well,
But
it's not just the same geometry. Like there's like a million
Same
levels
maps.
in this game, and a lot of times it's just like a slightly different objective on the same map, which is kind of a problem because like some of those maps, especially the ones that you go back to several times, are just kind of boring. They're just like they feel like a generic Unity asset or something, where it's just like a big box with a bunch of random stuff in it. I think
Suburbs 102 or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I think
exactly.
that meshes with Mike's comment about personality, because I think it goes across everything. Even though it's fun, it doesn't have that extra layer of personality and uniqueness that the first 2 games, or the other 2 games or whatever,
right.
had.
Yeah.
But you take Eric Walpaw and the rest, Chet Falchek and stuff out of the mix, then
Yeah, you're gonna
maybe that's
lose
to be
a lot of that
expected.
personality. Yeah.
And maybe next year we'll be talking
Well-
more about the Anacrusis because at least one of
Yeah.
those guys worked on that.
But
Yeah.
also, I think
I mean, that game.
I think-
that game definitely does have. For me, honestly, aside from the level design, the biggest disappointment for me is that the special infected are just not that interesting. Like a lot of cases, they're similar to the Left 4 Dead special
the same-
infected, but
yeah,
they're not as good and they're not as much fun to fight.
And they're not as memorable. I
and-
mean, the giant arm guys are kind of memorable.
They're memorable, but they're
Yeah.
like the reason that they're hard to kill is because they just have a lot of health and they do a lot of damage, but they don't
they-
synergize
by
in the way
default-
that the special infected in Left 4 Dead, especially in Left 4 Dead 2, which added like the spitter and the charger and stuff. But like the way that like each individual special infected in those games is super duper weak, but if you get a combo of 2 or 3 or 4 of them at the same time, you can just have your party
Oh, wreck your
wiped.
Gets
team.
wrecked.
Right. And in
Yeah.
this game, a lot of times it's just like they threw like 6 big arm guys at you and they just punched you to death because you couldn't DPS them down fast enough. And to me, that's not as
Right.
interesting.
Well, and part of
I-
that is because they're by default they built them to be they have a lot of HP, but they also like they completely turn away from you, so their weak point
Yeah,
that
they
you
have a weak
really have to
point, but
key
they
on
cover.
is a real
Yeah.
pain in the ass to get at.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, the idea, I think, is that the team is supposed to kind of split up and,
Yeah.
surround them so that someone has a clear shot
But-
at the weak point.
but
But I think
the AI
I think-
director equivalent in this game, like I said, it'll do like that thing where it's just like, oh, now there's like 8 of them, and we're not sure exactly how we're supposed to deal with this.
Yeah.
And it's just not that much fun. But
Yeah.
when this game is good, I think it's really, really good.
Yeah.
Like I love the diner level, especially the unexpected
Yeah.
appearance
That
of
is
like
by far the best level.
of Miser Lou when we were playing. Like that got me really
Yes.
excited. I was like, oh yeah, this is awesome. We're like hanging out in this diner and shooting zombies, and this cool music is playing on the jukebox. And then we looked up a list of songs, and there's like 20 licensed songs, including Clutch's Electric Worry, but they don't
Yeah.
use that music anywhere else in the game, which is really
Yeah.
bizarre to me.
No.
Like I don't know why you would license. Like I mean, some of those are like like classic rock songs that most people would recognize, and they didn't bother to use it, or maybe it was just cheaper if they contained it to that one level or something. I don't know. I did think that like the final couple of areas were quite good. Like the one that we
Yeah.
struggled against a lot was that big open area where you had to like move from objective
A
to
billion
objective.
gas grenades.
Right, where
Yes.
we had to like leave and like rejigger our team composition a few times, and I thought that stuff was pretty good because that was like one of the few levels that actually forced us to work as a team. And I liked the final boss, the big slug thing underground.
Yeah, I was gonna
thought
say
that was really fun.
they give the game a final boss, which I don't think makes up for.
No,
Like you were talking about the sort of lack of personality in the repeat maps, and I think a big part of that is like the thing that I like about Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2 is that these the characters are static, but they're dropped into vastly like there's no continuity. It's like
right.
every story is a different story. It's like an anthology series, right?
Mhm.
There's
Yeah.
one at the airport, and there's one at the hospital, and there's one, but there's not.
This
a
is the
through
one at the
line.
mall. This is the one at the
Right.
circus.
And this game they wanted to tell like an overarching narrative, including Tony Todd and whatnot, which is great. But I think that's where it kind of suffers. But you had to do something, right? Like the card system, like Mike was saying, is I think what sort of at first I was kind of resistant to it because I was like, well, Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2 were like perfectly fine without that. But then that raises the question of like, well, if it wasn't there, this would literally just be Left 4 Dead again,
But not
but
as
worse in
good.
every way.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, the
that
cards. I think I sometimes I like the card system. Sometimes I kind of wish it was just a skill tree, or like a thing where you unlock abilities and then like I don't really know why it's cards. I felt that way about there's like weapon loot.
Especially
Also,
because they
there's like
come up
colored
in an
tiered
order.
loot, and it's like, but it doesn't carry over, and you can't really change pieces like you can in Apex. So I don't really know what the point of having the colored tiered loot is, other than
Yeah.
just to have it. But I don't. I had a lot of fun playing through it once with you guys, and if I hadn't
Yeah.
been busy playing a bunch of other stuff at the same time, I probably would have played more by myself. But it's
yeah,
good.
I felt like I needed more of this, and I think it scratched that itch for me this year, and the fact that you guys were playing it helped because last year I really had a lot of fun with Predator Hunting Grounds, but you guys I think only played like the beta or whatever, and then I was the only one who actually bought it, so I was playing with randos all the time. So I think that's a better game than this because well, for a handful of reasons, but I probably had more fun with this because I played it with you guys, a
Right.
lot. So
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good.
All right.
Anyway, we should move on to number 15,
mm-hmm.
which is called Nightmare Cafe.
Oh yeah, Nightmare Cafe. So that's not a game. That's 10 games.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
because I just love to mess with these lists. So Lush 50 is an Australian Kaiser creator who made a bit of a name for himself by releasing a new hack approximately every 2 weeks all summer long, which is bananas, by the way. Like that is redonkulous. And in fact, he put out like several more in the year after that. So really overachieving here. The Nightmare Cafes are very short games, and they're made up of static screens. So each single screen, once you finish it, you move on to the next one, and that's it. You're done. And so that makes them really light and breezy for the most part. Like you only have to fight your way through a couple of obstacles before you get the equivalent of a checkpoint. But there was just something really fun about being able to just sit down, and you could play one of these things start to finish in like an hour, maybe, a little more, a little less, depending on the entry and how you're doing that night. But it was just like, it became like my ritual throughout all of August. It was like every 2 or 3 days I'd just sit down and I'd play one of these games. And they're a little bit weird and they're a little bit silly and, not too hard. And I don't know, it was like something about the serialization of the genre that I had a lot of fun with. We haven't even gotten to the part of the video where I'm actually playing a level yet.
Are we there yet? There you go. Here's
Well,
the first one.
we're gonna get there soon, but every one of them starts with like a little save house that has some sort of weird joke about how to save your midways, and then like a shout out for Lush's Twitch channel. So like this whole screen here is basically like stomp the Koopa, grab the shell, do a shell jump, go through the door. So like by Kaizo standards, that's pretty straightforward. And it's just that this game has I think it has 69 individual rooms.
Nice.
Yeah.
It did say that on the screen earlier, and it did say nice.
And when you get a coin, it says nice instead of giving you a point value. Anyway, so I don't know. It was just a fun experience to be able to pick one of these up every couple of days, and he just kept making more and more of them and saying every time it would be the last one, and then he literally put it, I think, 3 on one day at one point. So
wow,
he just had
It
a
was
bunch of
hard to-
ideas for simple Kaizo things, and then
yeah, they just kind of never stopped.
Yeah.
So
it's cool.
that's it.
That's Nightmare Cafe.
there
I
you
just
go.
stomped that Amazing Hammer Brother. I hate that. It's super hard to do. I kept this video because normally it takes me like 50 tries to get that.
All right. Well,
Also
Now
makes
we're on
good
number
use of
15.
the Super Mario World hot drinks port, which we discussed earlier this year. Sorry, I'll let you continue with game number 15.
Well,
Hang on.
I
I
mean,
think
Moving
this
stuff
is the first
around.
game multiple people have voted for.
So this is the
well,
game.
no, multiple people
Wait,
voted
what
for
about
Back 4
Back 4 Blood?
Blood.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
You
so
and-
this is
you
the
and Mike.
game that I think I might have played this the most this year. Kurt and I played a ton of it. It is the digital version of a famous board game. I also played a ton with
Yeah.
Alex. It's called
Yes.
Gloomhaven.
And our friend
Wormhorn.
Anthony.
It is a hex-based, turn-based tactical combat game with a bunch of characters and a bunch of missions that are loosely tied together by a campaign. And there is some writing that I think we mostly ignored. But we played it in 4-player co-op. It became kind of a weekly thing for us after we finished Divinity 2 for Kurt and Alex and our friend Anthony and I. And man, there's just a lot going
Noted
on.
sea truck
man.
enthusiast
It's
Anthony.
mechanics heavy, and there's a lot of characters with kind of neat abilities, and because it's based on a card game, the artificial intelligence is pretty easy to exploit, which is good because most of the monsters are terrifyingly difficult to kill, and if they were
Yeah.
actually smart and like attacked your weaknesses in a way
Yeah, they
that
would
made a little
destroy
more
you.
sense, you would never stand a chance. So
Yep.
so I can't really, the one thing that I can't really speak to is how good of a digital version of it is compared to
Yeah.
the card game, which I know Kurt has played a bunch of. Kurt has played a ton of this with us, and then he has another group of friends where he plays with
Played
the board game.
Yeah. So at the beginning of the pandemic, with some friends of mine and my wife, and 2 friends decided, hey, we're all on lockdown. Let's hang out on Skype and play board games. And we'd played a couple of Pandemic Legacy. We played Pandemic Legacy season 1 and 2 with them that way because they lived very far away from us at the time. And we were like, we could do that. And so we sort of put our heads together to try and figure out what we wanted to do. And I'd actually wanted to play this game for quite a while. but it's a gigantic box. I mean, I can't remember how much the box weighs, but it's a gigantic box full of stuff. There are 17 different characters, and a whole
Costs
lot
like over $100 to buy the
yeah,
board game.
yeah.
though,
The
doesn't it?
original list price I think was $140.
It looks like 3 board games stacked on top of each other.
Yeah, yeah. There's a shit ton of stuff in there, and
that's without the expansion, which is also
yeah,
another
that's without the
giant box. Yeah.
yeah,
It often gets bandied about as like the best board game ever made.
yeah.
Which
And
take that with a grain
Really
of salt, but
fucking cool though.
take that with a grain of salt. But I will say, you know, for people who are like, why would you ever pay $140 for a board game? You know, we played it. Eventually, we were playing it twice a week. Each session, we play three or 4 hours to play through a scenario, and we're not quite done. And we're like a year and a half into doing this. There's like 100 and some scenarios between the whole thing. So you certainly will get your money's worth. But and one of the things that Anthony said when we started playing this, because this came up, you know, I got it because I liked the board game and I wanted to fiddle around with it and see how good it was. And then Anthony was interested in giving it a try. And then we duped Alex and
I already had
Eric
it, man.
trying it. That's right. You already had it. So I was like, well, why don't we play it?
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't we play it? And so we started playing it, and then I, you know, had to sort of walk them through how to play it. And Anthony at some point was like, I can't imagine
Top
how
bottom.
much of this game you've played.
Hey, remember to pick top
yet
and
you're
bottom
still
abilities.
interested. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a sort of speaks to the sort of cleverness of the game mechanics, and how even just, you know, the difference of the party makeup, because the same set of characters are in this game. So there's 17 different characters. They all have a different set of cards. As you level up, you get different cards, and there's choices immediately there.
Each
And then the
character
monsters you're
has
fighting are different.
somewhat between what, like 20 or 30 cards, and then each character has a different hand size, and then you pick which like 9 of those 30 cards you want, and then as you level you unlock 2 cards and you get to pick one of the 2, and then you're kind of like constantly building a character. So you can build all the characters have like several different like viable builds, and then on top of that, because each one of you is, because the way we played anyway is we played it 4-player co-op, so each one of us is building characters, and so each team composition also has different flavors, and so there's just a lot of different variety in the way that you play. And also, like, for me, the reason I don't think I would have played nearly that much of it by myself, but playing it co-op and, you know, discussing all of the moves and trying to figure out how best to, you know, make all of our characters work together, and then somebody making a dumb mistake like saying, oh, I can do this, but actually I can't do that because I need to have the top. When you pick a turn, you have to take a top and a bottom ability and a card, and we just continually fucked that up.
You're like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this.
We still fucked that up. We played like 120 hours. Yeah, these are 2 tops, so actually I can't do that. And so then you just,
I've got this awesome
or you
plan,
play them in the wrong order, and you're like, I'm gonna go really fast, I'm gonna do this thing.
Yeah.
You play the cards in the wrong order, and you realize you get really slow, and you're totally fucked.
Yeah. But it was just a fun game too, because there's so much variety and the skills and the way that the characters play. It was just made for a really fun time to talk about what we were going to do and come up with strategies.
Anthony
and try to win.
was around tonight, we wouldn't be doing this. We would be playing Gloomhaven. But Anthony's not around tonight.
We'd be doing this, but
we'd be doing this.
Check out my Slammeroni. That's all I have to say.
Don't let them in on the secret. That's our thing.
So this feels sort of similar to like there was a D&D board game that came out a few years ago that everybody sort of went nuts over, because it was like you didn't have to invest all the time that you would to play regular D&D, but it still was like similar to was it like Castle Ravenloft something?
Yeah.
Does that sound right? Is this kind of similar to that?
So there's not a lot of opportunities for character role playing like there would be in D&D. This is more like Warhammer. More like the
it's just like, win the battle and upgrade your character.
Pretty much, yeah.
And to answer, I guess, Eric's question explicitly, it is an exact representation of the mechanics and the systems in the board game.
Yeah.
Well, and so initially when the game launched in early access, it was just the mode that we've been playing primarily, which is like
Yeah.
a unique to the PC version mode where it's kind of just like random little side quests that you do. There's
Yeah,
no
it's
overarching
essentially
story.
it's essentially a campaign that they built prior
But
to building the replica of the campaign in the board game.
exactly, now that is in the game, and so you can play the game that is just like a digital version of
Yeah.
the actual board game.
Exactly.
So, which was not the case at launch.
yeah.
Mechanics
And-
were the same, but
Right. That's what I was
Yeah.
gonna say. All the
Yeah.
characters and all the cards and all that stuff are all exactly the same. It's just the scenarios and how they played out and what they did with them. is different.
Also,
and
And
one
that's still in there.
thing, well, one thing that this game, I would say, we've talked about this multiple times. Anthony and I in particular have mentioned this multiple times, which is that the enemies all behave according to a certain set of rules. So if it's the board game, you have to know what those rules are and do all that shit yourself. In
Yeah.
this, it just happens. That's incredible because there's so many times where there's like 30 enemies or something. We're like, fuck, man, we're in bad shape. There's so many
Yeah.
guys, and it's all being automated what they're doing. And then one of us will be like, imagine if we had to like do this. And it's like, oh, thank fucking God.
you want to talk
we don't
about
have
you want to talk about
And-
accelerating a process. You should try playing 4 characters by yourself. Look at how much progress I'm making in like 8 minutes. This is
Yeah,
like 8
yeah.
minutes into me playing this level, and I've almost cleared out a room already, and it like takes us 90 minutes sometimes to beat a
I
beat a
have
dungeon.
played this solo, and I know.
Yeah.
And at one point Anthony said he was talking to Abby about it, and
But that's no fun.
he was describing sort of what happens and what the game does. It's like, well, that's just what we'd had Kurt would do
Yeah.
when we play games. And he's like, yeah, that actually is what would happen. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I do when we're playing it.
But anyway, we should move on.
Yeah,
But
we should move
Anyone
on.
who
This
loves board
is-
game knows that there's
about
got to
the-
be that one person who sacrifices themselves to learn all the rules so that everyone else
Yep.
can just show up and
Right.
play.
And thank God we have Kurt to do that.
Mhm.
Because
Thank
then they're
you.
like,
First time
"All
around,
right,
it's me.
what's the monster gonna do?"
Kurt,
I'm like, he's gonna go over here.
I
and do
mean this
this.
sincerely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate that you guys will put up with it and actually play it with me because
That's great. I love playing it with you guys.
Yeah, we all like it.
I've
It's
had
great.
so much fun. But
Now when
as soon
we're-
but
when-
but as soon as Baldur's
when-
Gate 3 comes out,
When
we're
Baldur's
playing
Gate 3
that.
comes out,
Yeah.
we're playing that. Yeah, exactly.
Anyways,
Yeah,
we
what the fuck is Gloomhaven? I'm booting up Baldur's Gate 3.
Anyway,
Come on.
all right, we're,
Join my
we're
lobby.
moving on to our number
Moving on.
13 game, which is Bowser's
love
Fury,
Oh,
which
yeah.
was
Did
an
I-
add-on to Super Mario 3D World re-release that came out on Switch earlier this
Yeah.
Did
year.
anyone but me vote for this?
Yes.
I think
I
Joe
forgot
did.
it
Yeah,
existed.
Joe did. Yeah.
All right. I was going to only talk about Bowser's Fury because the other
Yes.
part is a game that came out several years ago, and we would never talk about a game that
Don't
came
be-
out several
don't
years
be
ago.
I would never.
Ridiculous.
I would
Yeah.
never.
We have some respect for the process here.
That's
Personally, I thought Bowser's Fury was really neat. I am someone who was kind of dissatisfied with Super Mario Odyssey, at least the first time that I played it. And I have a hard time explaining why exactly. It just felt kind of flat and dull to me. I think Bowser's Fury takes 3D Mario in a weird new direction, and it's one that I'd really like to see them do more with. I like the fact that you're just in one giant connected world, which is not like... It's not how it plays, right? It plays as a series of obstacle courses, but I like the fact that you can just wander around between them and just kind of show up where you want to do stuff. And it has this weird cycle where Bowser will occasionally rise from the sludge in the ocean and start raining fire and brimstone upon you as you're trying to platform.
It's important to note that the subtitle of this probably should actually be Bowser's Furry,
It's true.
because there's like, this is the cat. Everything is kind of a cat. Like there's a sea monster that's a cat, and Bowser is a giant
trees are
cat.
cats.
The sea
The clouds
monster.
are cats.
The sea monster isn't a cat until you get the cat bell
Okay.
for her. Then she's the same sea monster from
Yeah.
I don't Galaxy was
It's
she
all
in
cats.
Galaxy for the
It's all
first time,
cats,
but
man.
yeah, it's cats all the way down.
She
But-
evolves into a cat. Her final
I think
form
it was
is
a
cat.
new Super Mario Bros.
Oh.
thing initially, the
Was
sea
she
monster.
really?
Well, so
Was-
Nessie,
well,
Nessie the
whatever.
sea monster is in Mario 64, and then this is like an
No.
upgraded.
Is she?
Yeah, there's a big
It's
purple
true. That's
sea
true.
monster
In the
that-
Hazy Maze Cave.
Yep. and so that's like
Oh,
the
yeah,
origin
yeah,
of this,
yeah,
and this is
that's
like an
right.
upgraded.
But that's a
version
different
of that.
looking. That's a much different looking.
Well, it's
I
got
don't know if
similar
it's-
shapes.
Yeah, it's similar.
Well, it has a super long neck because you have to like run up the neck
Yeah.
to stand on the head to
Yeah.
get to.
This is like the
yeah.
upgraded, evolved version of that. Anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Right. So I disagree with Mike's assessment of Odyssey. I think Odyssey is not as good as Galaxy, Galaxy 2, 3D World, 3D Land.
Yeah, Odyssey.
But I still
Odyssey
thought
has
Odyssey
a lot
was really
of
good. I liked
Odyssey
it
has a
lot.
lot of really clever stuff and a lot of cruft. That was how I felt about
Yes.
it.
Yeah. Also, the fact that the second world is that fucking horrible desert does that game no favors.
Yeah.
But I love 3D World so
too.
very much.
We
3D
played through
World might be
we
my
played through
three-
literally
yeah.
the whole thing during Extra Life.
Yeah, it might be my favorite 3D Mario game, but I haven't revisited Galaxy 2 in a while. So,
You won't anytime soon.
But-
Thanks, Nintendo.
well, I mean, I still just like have a copy of it on Wii. So,
Do you, Joe?
I can-
Look again.
No, it's gone.
No, you don't.
No, yeah, it's still there. If my
Reggie
webcam was on, I could show it to
Fils-Aimé is in your room, and he's holding it above your head, and you can't jump and grab it until you give him $10. It's the only way.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I the thing that I don't like about this game.
Do you fight the
that
giant
you're-
Bowser in
you'll
this video,
see-
Joe? If I scrub
I do
forward?
fight the giant Bowser in
there
this
he is,
video.
okay.
And in fact, I have to watch the whole ending because apparently if you fight the giant Bowser anytime after you have 50 shines, you have to do the whole final boss battle and then watch the end again. And I don't really love that part of it.
No, that is inconvenient. That
Yeah.
part. You get to the point where you can't really do anything about giant evil Bowser because, like you said, if you try to take care of him, you wind up doing like the final boss battle. So I have like 5 cat shines left to get that I just kind of never bothered getting because, like, once he shows up, he doesn't go away anymore. So, like, I guess I can reload the game maybe and get another 10 minutes without him. But
That's a
anyway, I
bizarre
think it's a
decision.
That's annoying.
that caveat aside, I think it's cool. I get.
Yeah, I will just take one more very quick moment to say that I differ with Mike on I don't really want them to further explore Sandbox Mario. Like I don't think I need that in my life any in a world any bigger than this one. I think it worked out really well in this one because it's a pretty small world. But if it was like a full-blown Mario standalone game's worth of content in a giant sandbox, I think I would maybe kind of hate that.
I think it
But
depends
what I wanna
on
see
how
is
good the
8 of
connective
these.
tissue is. Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah.
I want to see them make a game where every world is one of these, basically, like just a bunch of different themes, and all the timer in each world behaves differently, and causes different things to happen. But I like the fact that it transitions. I like the fact that you don't entirely control when it transitions. It's just like, nope, now there's giant flaming rocks flying around. Turns out they're kind of helpful to you, also.
Right. Yeah, you to get some shines, you have to lure Bowser to breathe his super fire at you.
Yeah,
break
or you
certain
can just
blocks.
use the rocks that he drops to make platforming easier sometimes.
Yes, it's true.
And then you go Super Saiyan, Jumbo Cat, and you like fight him.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
It's a
mean,
cool
yes,
experiment.
I would like more Mario kaiju battles. That I will say for sure. I'm in for that.
Yeah, it's a really cool experiment, and I'm curious to see what they do with this in the next Mario game.
Probably nothing.
Yeah,
I don't know.
probably
You
nothing.
think?
Yeah.
I mean,
don't
I
think
feel like
so.
Odyssey, like
'Cause
what
this
you're talking
isn't-
about,
this
Mike.
wasn't- this
Odyssey kind of
thing-
was that.
This thing
That's
wasn't
what I was
made.
thinking.
This thing was not made by like the Mario team at Nintendo. It's made by
No?
like a different team. I can't remember who it was now.
Well, then maybe they need to hire those guys.
I mean, maybe they'll buy them because that seems to be the theme of 2022.
Oh,
We'll talk about
come
that
on.
next year, though.
Yeah, let's not.
Anyways, anyway, I don't know. You guys got
Bowser's
anything
furry.
else? Bowser's furry. It's
good.
cool. It's
Actually-
the giant Bowser thing is really cool.
The
Some of
giant
the
Bowser
level
thing was
design
really
I didn't
cool.
enjoy a ton, but it's a very
I thought some of it was pretty
very cool
novel.
idea.
I will also say the last thing I'm going to say is I like that you can bank a shitload of power ups. I appreciated that.
There's a couple jams on the soundtrack too. By the
Yeah.
way,
Yes,
Oh yeah, the
yes,
soundtrack's
yes,
great. Yeah.
absolutely.
I
don't
love,
sleep on Pounce Pounce
Absolutely.
Island.
I love all the cat stuff. The cat stuff is cool.
It's adorable. Every single thing in this game is a cat.
Yeah, it's good.
Mhm.
Anyway, all right. So we should move on to number 13 now, which is Fights in Tight Spaces.
Mm.
It's a pretty good game.
That's a good
fucking
game.
good.
It's a
That's
game I
fucking
like.
good.
Yeah.
I think Joe liked that.
Yeah,
Joe played like
I-
a million hours of it.
I played a whole lot of it. I don't. Am I the only one who voted for it, or did somebody
I
else?
didn't, but it's
No, it
it
didn't
was
make
in
it.
the mix for me, but not on my list.
Yeah, it could have had a low ranking spot on my list, but it didn't quite sneak on.
So, Fights in Tight Spaces is a roguelike deck builder tactical thing.
Hmm.
Tactical beat 'em up.
Yes, it's a tactical beat 'em up.
It's Gloomhaven.
It's the elevator fight from Captain America over and over again.
right? Or Mission Impossible.
It's John
but
Wick. Yeah,
married with a
it's
text-based, strategy
yeah,
tactical combat game.
it's John Wick with cards, and it. So I think what I really liked about it is the aesthetic, just the black and white. I talked about this a lot during Sticksmas because I gave it to Eric, so I'm not gonna like belabor the point too much. But what I really like the aesthetic, the sort of dichromatic art style, really works for me. The theming of the thing. It's not, I still haven't played Slay the Spire. I have it now. I'm going to play it, but the fantasy, medieval fantasy world aesthetic does not hit me in the same way as the like John Wick action movie aesthetic. But also the fact that you move around, right? A lot of these deck builders that I've seen people play, including Slay the Spire and what was the one, Griftlands and stuff like. The cards do everything, right? And in this game, the cards do everything, but part of it is your positioning relative to the enemies, right? So you part of what you're doing and part of what your cards are for is to move you around the map. And then there are a bunch of different maps with different obstacles, and some of the movement cards let you move around those environments in different ways, including like jumping over obstacles. There are some attacks that require you to be next to a wall or adjacent to a wall.
Right, or two spaces away,
or two spaces away. You can some require the enemies to be down on the floor. You can boop enemies out of the
and
map.
also the enemies anytime
attacks.
anytime the enemies acquire a target, they will attack, including each other. And so, like one of the main things one of your main goals in most missions, and the easiest way to output a ton of damage is to maneuver the enemies and yourself into a position such that they hit each other.
As is happening on screen right now.
As is happening on screen right now.
Yeah, so I don't know. I played a ton of hours of this. I played the early access version, or the what was it? Fights in Tight Spaces prologue, which was like a demo of the early access version. And then I bought the early access version, and then when it moved out of early access in December, which is when I decided to give it to Eric because I thought the price would go up. So right before it moved into its final version is when I bought it for Eric for Sticksmas. But I played a lot of between the early access and the final version. I played a lot of hours of this game, and it's just I don't know. I like it a lot. I think it's a real good one of these. I like the mechanics. I like the style of it. I like pretty much everything about it, and it was. I play a lot of games that require reaction times and not a lot of games that don't, and so this was like a very relaxing game for me because I don't have to be paying 100% attention and doing something the whole time. It's like very chill. So
I spent about 10 hours on this, and I had quite a good time with it. And I've told you this, my only real complaint with this game is that I think the runs are a little on the long side, because I got to the end of a run, and I got absolutely stomped by the final boss, because I didn't realize what was happening, which is that like the special abilities he has change every single turn, because they don't really explain that ever, I don't think. And then I looked at how long it took me to get there, and it was like 2.5 or 3 hours, I think, to finish that run. I was like, man, like, I want to play this again, but I can't just pick this up and casually spend 3 hours on a single run. Whereas, like, most of the other games in this genre that I like, the runs tend to be like an hour at most.
Yeah, I think for me, there's a difficulty called Classic Plus, which basically it lets you retry a fight as many times as you want. It doesn't. You'll be dealt the same cards in the same order every time on Classic Plus. So you can't just like fail and retry and hope you get a better hand. But that was kind of how I learned the game. Also, when it was in early access, the final boss didn't exist. So the first couple of times I cleared it, there was no final boss. There was like there's a final level where you fight a bunch of high level enemies, but that guy was not there yet in the early access version. So
Agent 11, is that right?
You're Agent 11. He's Agent 11 with a Roman numeral, if I remember correctly.
That's cute. That is cute.
Yeah,
Anyway, good game.
it is. Yeah,
Fun game.
I like it. I like it quite a bit.
I'll
also.
probably play some more of it at some point.
The big thing that was missing for me was like some kind of interactable environmental stuff, because I feel like that would have freshened up, especially these earlier fights where the ones that you do quite a bit. It would have been
Where,
nice
like,
if
you
there
were
was
standing
a
next to
boiling
something, you
pot
could
of
pick up,
water that you could
yeah,
grab in a
right.
kitchen, or what like stuff to give the each
Like a
level
fire
a little bit more.
extinguisher or a canister you can explode, or I
Listen,
don't know what.
We'll
Crowbar,
talk
tire
about
iron.
using fire extinguishers as weapons in a few minutes here, but for now I think we're gonna move on into our actual top 10 list.
What?
Wow.
Hey, we're gonna start
Our top 12,
with
10.
Let's start with a little bit of this Deathloop. Kurt,
Deathloop.
what's up with Deathloop?
So Deathloop is the most recent game from Arcane Studios, and everyone knows that I'm completely in the tank for anything Arcane does.
It's true, you are.
Yeah, it's true.
We all talk about it. Everybody knows.
Yep, everybody knows. It's in, as they do, it's an immersive sim. In the shtick in this one, though, is that you're caught in a time loop, and so you're working your way through one particular day, and trying to escape and break the loop, where everyone essentially is trying to keep you from doing so, especially one particular other character named Juliana, who is constantly showing up and thwarting you, generally in the form of another player. You can turn that off if you don't want to deal with that, but I think it's a fun element to the game as you're sort of working your way around and trying to figure out how to take the level apart, and suddenly a super powerful player character shows up and starts to try and wreck your day.
Sometimes like controlled by another human.
Yeah,
because it has like Dark Soul invasion kind of stuff.
Exactly.
So if you don't turn that on, does she show up a computer controlled by
Yes.
the AI?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, she still does. And so, like I said, it takes place over one day. There is a couple of different time periods during the day.
Yeah. Like this is it's
four-
hard
four or
split.
five.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't. It's not like
Time does not pass while you're in a level per a
right.
particular
You say
time of
I'm
day
going to go to this level in the morning, and then it's morning in that level until you leave the level.
until you leave
basically.
or get killed.
Yeah, instead of it having like a real time clock or something. Which,
But when you do
is
leave
one
the
of
level, it
those-
advances to the next time slot regardless.
Yeah.
So
you say I'm going to
if
do this one in the morning, and this one in the afternoon, and this one in the evening.
Yeah.
and-
right, and
This one at
the
supper
ultimate
time.
goal, the ultimate
When
goal
Death loops on a
is
bagel. You can
to
die
break the
anytime.
loop
But anyway,
by murdering a number of different. There's I think 6 different boss-like characters that are scattered throughout the various
visionaries.
levels. The visionaries, yeah, and they're all terrible.
These sick ass holograms on their chest, man. It's
They're all terrible, terrible people, and rightly you want to murder them. But they appear in different places at different times of the day. And so a lot of the game is kind of exploring the different levels, seeing what different things are available at different times of the day, because each level is slightly different at different times of the day because of things that change. Either visionaries are there or not there, or different chunks of the level are available or not available or whatever. And so you're spending a lot of time trying to figure out, okay, how does this whole thing work, what things are where, and then sort of building your knowledge of the game, but also your arsenal up. So there are weapons that you can find throughout the level. There's different sort of upgrade abilities within those weapons. So you can find a plain old pistol, but you can find one that that you don't have to reload as often, or
Right,
or
one
whatever.
with a bigger
has-
clip.
bigger clip, or
What it says blam on the side.
yeah, exactly. It says blam on the side, for example. And then you can also, as you kill visionaries, you'll get powers from those visionaries. And so, like Dishonored, you have both physical weapons as well as power-based things that you can do, and those will get upgraded as well as you work your way through the game. And so one of the things you're doing as you're sort of working your way through the loops and exploring is amping up your arsenal and figuring out sort of, okay, do I want to keep this gun? You can use
Right. There's a specific
a
currency that
you
you
acquire.
find, yeah, that
Yep.
lets you
Yeah.
I can spend 5,000 this currency to make sure I always start with this gun or whatever.
Yeah. And there are uh like slottable upgrades that you can
Put
put
into
in.
those weapons. Yeah,
Yeah,
charms
say
or
like,
whatever.
I move more quickly when I'm crouching,
Right.
or
Or reloads
I
faster.
I reload faster, or I do take less damage when I'm dual wielding, or any of those
Yeah.
kind of things. And so there's a whole crap load of those, and those are also at different levels. So you can find a basic version of that, and that'll be like you move slightly faster, or a really rare version of that, and you move much faster, much more quietly, or whatever. And so you're sort of picking and choosing your way through it and going, well, for this level to do this kind of thing, what's my loadout going to be, and what weapons do I like to use, and what powers do I want to use, and so on, and mix and match and play it however you want. And the thing I think that's really clever about this, we talked last year, the year
Sure.
before, about Prey Moon Crash, which they took the Prey mechanics and then they turned it into a form of a roguelike. And I felt like this was basically Dishonored Moon Crash.
Yeah.
And it turned, at least according to the No Clip documentary I saw, they specifically hadn't sort of cross-pollinated in that way, which is kind of interesting. But it feels like that, in that they said, sort of, how do we make this such that you can't just like completely optimize what you're trying to do, and only play through a level once, and sort of do it in one particular way. And so, they make it such that you're going to repeat on it, figure out sort of the ins and outs of a level, change how your approach is gonna go, and sort of work through and learn all this stuff, and be adaptive on the fly, and also not try and be perfect, because you're just going to come back anyway. And so it's I obsessively play a lot of their kind of games, but by being trying to be incredibly stealthy and not get caught, and da 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 da. And this game sort of broke me of that, at least for this game.
It rewards you for going fast instead of punishing you
Yep.
for.
Exactly.
I mean, like Dishonored, especially Dishonored 1, spends a lot of time tutting you for.
Yeah.
Oh, you killed too many
killed those
people.
people.
Oh no, something bad's gonna
Now we're
happen.
gonna put a lot of rats in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I played some of this game, and I don't, for some reason the level designs were just a little too, I don't know. I did not
gamey?
enjoy the levels as much as I did in Dishonored 2, which I also played last year, and that game's kind of a masterpiece. I think that's kind of
that by
the
far is the
pinnacle
best.
of this kind of
Yeah.
style of game.
I
And also,
agree.
I played another game that this game reminds me a lot of, called Hitman 3. Which is a far more ridiculous thing, but also is similar in that it has these very intricate levels with that are kind of happening whether you're there or not. But those Hitman games are kind of fucking brilliant in the way that they,
I agree.
the way that they work. And this game does have kind of try to incorporate the time loop thing, whereas in Hitman, you just play the levels over and over again because it's kind of fun. You want to see what different things you can do, but the different weird things you can do in Hitman, that's kind of the thing that's missing from this, is that every time you play the levels, they're kind of the same, and your goal is kind of always the same. Whereas in Hitman, you can do all kinds of creative stuff.
Can't drop a chandelier on someone's head.
But maybe we'll get to that in a minute.
Maybe we'll talk about that.
But yeah, this game is really cool. I love the way it looks, and I liked the characters and the writing quite a bit.
The writing definitely gets a shout out. The interactions between Colt and Juliana,
specifically, that is really
are
cool.
really good in this game, and are definitely
I know what happened, but the
part of
end
what I
was kind of a
enjoyed about it.
bummer. I found out what happens at the end, and that was kind of a letdown. But
yeah,
it didn't quite deliver. But
I agree with that.
I
Too.
think, like I said, I think I would have enjoyed this more if I had not spent 25 hours playing Dishonored 2, and then also if Hitman 3.
Yeah,
had
that's
come out
probably
this
a good
year.
point. Yeah,
Because those two
yeah,
games are pretty similar to this, and I think they're both a
mhm.
little bit better in some ways. But
Yeah,
this game is definitely really cool.
yeah. I rated a lot of the stuff that I did based on like how obsessed did I get with this and how much did I just continue to play through it regardless, because there's a billion video games.
That's
So
true.
if something can make me want to keep playing it and turn through and not my attention doesn't get grabbed by something else, then that's a component of how highly I rated it.
Yeah.
So
I was glad that they made one of these that was meant to appeal more to my kind of play style, and it's
yeah,
fun. It
yeah.
is quite a fun game. But anyway,
All
we
right.
should move on to, let's say,
Number 10.
our
game.
number
Number
10
10.
game, which is, let's say, Ghosts and Goblins Resurrection.
Be
Joe?
still my beating heart.
Whew, I'm gonna
If you were a ghost, it would.
I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back.
Wow.
Listen, if you don't have anything nice to say about a game's art
That's
style,
true.
then you should go to the bathroom.
Yeah, you know what? This is
Play some Super Auto Pets.
So yeah, right. Yeah. Go play your fucking emoji battler, okay? So that was a divisive thing with that. I like the art style of this game. I think it was very clearly intentionally made to look like a storybook. I think it does that, and I like it. But that's not why I love this game, because very few games for me live and die by the art style. The art style was just a nice bonus on this one. What I love about this game is that it is a brand new fucking Ghosts and Goblins game, which, like, I joked about that, I think, like in some like an E3 predictions thing on Twitter, like there was going around or something. Like I was like, haha, there'll this new Ghosts and Goblins fucker, I'm calling it. And then they actually made a new Ghosts and Goblins. And
Joke's on you, Joe.
yeah, right. They were like, fuck you. It turns out I'm into that shit. And I was like, well, joke's doubly on you because I'm also into that shit. So um yeah, I think I don't think it did particularly well. So I don't know if we're going to get another one of these for another well, the last one was on PSP, so 15ish years, so maybe in another 15 years we can revisit Ghosts and Goblins. Um I'm not sure about that though. Maybe we'll get another one in a couple of years. Who knows? But like I was so glad to see Capcom revisit this series. And it's one of my favorite series. It's like a lot of people hate these games. They can be cruel. They're very difficult.
Some might say punishing.
Some might say punishing. I feel like when younger people talk about Dark Souls, they've never played a Ghosts and Goblins game. Like,
Zoomers.
these are the hardest games ever. They're so hard, and I'm like, yeah, just take a spin.
I think you can just like branch
G&G.
that out into like any excuse me, NES and arcade games.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be one specific series. They don't understand the quarter munching mentality.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think you're right, but I feel like even among the classic games, this particular series is
Oh, I agree with you.
Known.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair.
And so I love
And
the series. I think the second one is my favorite, and even after playing this, it's still my favorite, but this game is really good. I was honestly shocked at how much it stayed true to the series in terms of the difficulty. Like, it does something. There's some quality of life things that make it there are multiple difficulty levels. Yeah, there are multiple difficulty levels. There's a true ending and a false ending, and not a false ending, but like there's a less true ending that is still like an actual ending though, where like the story is tied up and like you don't feel like in the original series you get to the end of the game and then it goes, haha, fuck you, do it again.
Wait, for real now.
And this one, you can do it again to get a better ending, but you don't have to. Like, the game shows you an ending where you save Princess Prin Prin and, everyone lives happily ever after. Like, that still happens when you beat it the first time. You don't get to face the final boss and you don't get the better, more complete ending or whatever, but you get something. But and there's like, so in the default difficulty, there's 4 difficulty levels: Page, Squire, Knight, and Legend. I played on Knight, which is sort of the default difficulty. You can take 3 hits instead of just 2. So your armor is like not
Jesus
dollar store
Christ.
armor, yeah. On Legend you can only take 2. It's classic style. 1 hit knocks off the armor, 2nd hit kills you.
Right.
But on Squire and Page you can't beat the game. You can only play a few levels on Page. But even on Squire, I think you can take like 4 or 5 hits before you die, and you can still play through the whole game to the end. This game is a lot more generous with the checkpoints than especially the console. Like, the arcade version of Ghouls and Ghosts has more than 1 checkpoint per stage, depending on the dip switches. But generally speaking, historically, these games have 1 checkpoint per level. It's right in the middle, and then, like, that's it. So, like, get
Don't
good.
die.
Get good.
Yeah. But this one adds Banners of Resurrection, which you're not punished for using at all. You don't lose anything if you do choose to use the more frequent checkpoints. Although it does do that thing where if you die too many times, it'll start going like, "Are you sure you don't want to turn the difficulty down?" And I'm just like,
Oh
no,
no.
Little
fuck
baby,
you.
wanna play the baby game.
Yeah. I'm like, no, fuck you.
Are you sure you don't want to
but-
activate Ninja Dog mode?
Yeah, right.
Are you
It does
sure you
that.
don't want Luigi to do this for you?
Right. It does. Well, it doesn't go that far, but
Like, no,
but yeah,
fuck off.
hidden chests. Another thing is you can get things that let you carry multiple weapons at once, which is like not a thing in this series generally. You can have multiple. The spells and the weapons are not tied together, which historically they had been. So there's a little more versatility in how you can choose to play the game, because now it's like, well, if I, historically, if I take the knife, then I take the doubling spell, which in like Ghouls and Ghosts, like that's pretty, like that's what you, it's like almost broken, because now you have the fastest firing weapon, and now you're throwing 2 of them at once because you have the shadow double following behind you. But in this game, as you collect umbral bees, you unlock more spells, and so then you just have access to those spells. And there's a cooldown when you cast a spell, and the cooldown is determined by which spell you cast. So like, the one with the biggest cooldown is the one that renews your armor. And that one has like a full minute, I think, cooldown, which in a game like this is a long fucking time. But like some of the weaker spells have like a 15-second cooldown, and then you can cast another spell once you're done. But yeah, I don't know. It's true to the series. If you like the series, which a lot of people don't, you should definitely check it out. If you like action platformers, if you like hard games, it's a different kind of hard than something like Dark Souls or even something like Super Meat Boy. But if you like challenging games, I wholeheartely recommend it. I loved it. I played it all the way through on the standard difficulty. I got the second ending, found all the orbs to get the true final boss fight, and blah 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 blah. Did all
Orbs,
that
you
stuff.
say.
Orbs, yeah. Every level has a pit to hell, and you have to enter hell and then do a challenge to get an orb, and then you have to get all the orbs, so that at the end, when you defeat, he's Loki in the American Genesis version, but he's actually Lucifer. When you beat Lucifer, then if you have all the orbs, then you ascend and fight like his second form, basically. And that's a harder boss fight, obviously. But yeah, man, I like it a lot. I do like the look of it. I think it works for me. Yeah, there aren't a lot of
It's
other
okay.
games that look like it.
The art style is okay.
You know.
It's something about the animation just really turns me off, and I'm not. 100%
I was going to ask
sure
what
it
you were
is,
complaining about,
but-
because I thought it looked.
Yeah,
Just
the
kinda
art style's fine.
Paper doll
But
animation.
I
Or...
don't, normally
Yeah,
I
right.
like
Yeah,
that
paper
too.
doll
That's the weird
animation.
thing. I don't know. There's just something about it that I don't like, but
But yeah, I don't know.
maybe it's just the
true-
ghouls and
it's-
ghosts of it.
It could be. There's a whole bunch of stages that reference both the classic games, and there's new stuff, and there's classic bosses and new bosses, and classic weapons and new weapons, like that steel ball you saw me throwing, which is a lot of fun. It's so weird. It's just like a big spiked steel ball that you just huck at enemies, and it rolls down and goes through enemies and
Nice.
stuff.
It's a
And
medicine
there's-
ball, but dangerous.
Yeah,
I do like to
basically.
huck.
basically.
All
Nice.
right, we
But
should.
yeah, I don't know. It's real good.
Shall we
moving on.
continue on? Should we continue on to number 10?
Did anybody else even play it? I know I'm the only one who
No.
voted for it. Did
Nope,
anyone
didn't
play
try it.
Okay.
It's a thing that
There's a lot of
when
games,
you mentioned
man.
that it was out, I was
I
like, oh,
heard about it.
I should pick that up. I do like Ghouls and
Oh.
Ghosts.
You know who you should talk to? My friend Joe played it.
Okay.
Yeah.
He can tell you if it's good or not.
He can tell you all about it.
Yeah.
All right,
Yes, we
so
should move on
I
to our
already
number
thought
10.
let's go
It
on to
was
number 10.
10 game of the year.
Number 10.
I thought it was number 2. We
Yeah.
collectively thought it was number 10.
Mhm.
My number 2 is, and our collective number 10 is The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, which is a collection of
Wow.
two Ace Attorney games that were released in Japan in, I think, 2017 and 2019, and never made it over here to the United States.
Until now.
Until now, where they finally got a translation and they packaged them together. It's like $40, I think, for the two games. I mean, this is very much so one of those Ace Attorney games where you're talking to people and then you're looking around in environment, and then a crime happens, and then you're looking around in environments trying to find evidence, and then you're going into a courtroom and you're trying to present that evidence to find contradictions in testimony until you eventually come out at the truth. This game introduces,
But not before many shenanigans.
there was a lot of shenanigans, man. Let me tell you about
many?
shenanigans.
Objection!
The thing, so I think, I don't remember if it was the which Ace Attorney game it was that added the parts where you're interviewing the jurors, like, but this game has that. I know
that was like that was
like
Leighton
it must
be
versus
five.
Wright,
it was in
wasn't it?
yeah, it was in the
It was
Leighton
in
one. I
Leighton
know it was
versus-
in
Oh.
that one, but I don't know if it was in any of the other ones. But so this game has that, so this game is set like like around the time of the Industrial Revolution. I mean, it's set in fantasy made up Japan and Great Britain, but the time period is like
Eric,
like
those
the,
are real countries.
the main character. Well, no, they're fantastical versions of those countries. You see,
I
but
was muted, but I said, "Oh boy."
so this game is, I mean, the same way that one of the great things about the original Ace Attorney trilogy is that it's set in Japan, but when it was translated, they made it so it was like set in California. So it's like this weird,
Yes.
non-existent Japanese California thing that is like
Right.
actually a really
Has like
fun,
settlements of mystical monks up in the mountain,
Yeah.
like the Sierra Nevada mountains.
It's
or whatever. This-
unintentionally kind of an incredible
Yeah.
setting. In this game, kind of does the same exact thing, although it's more intentional in this game. It's not just a result of a kind of a dumb translation thing. But anyways, so this game is, the main character in this game is Phoenix Wright's like great grandfather. I think he's like related. They're
Wow.
related directly
related somehow,
in some
yeah. No skate.
fashion. And so you and your best friend are trying to be exchange students being sent from Japan, who has just recently opened up its borders to trade with Great Britain. And
But you're accused of a murder.
Well, you want to go to Great Britain to learn about their justice system and sort of bring some of that stuff back to modernize the Japanese justice system. And
Didn't
because
work
it's-
based on the other Phoenix Wright games.
Well, I mean, that's in those games, the way you played them, that was the American justice system. So,
That's
um,
Look,
true.
look, Mike. This is we're a long way removed from the dark age of the law.
right.
Okay.
Which, having lived through 2014 and 2020, we know is still pretty fucked up. But anyway, so the big thing that they introduce in this game is this character that we're meeting right here, whose name is Herlock Sholmes, who is a distinct entity, completely unrelated to maybe
original character.
an
Jimmy
Any other-
Carrey.
a character,
any
a
other
famous detective
characters?
of a different era.
Not
But-
at all like Miss Marple.
But I love Sherlock Holmes. He's one of my favorite characters. I spent a lot of time. I read all those stories when I was a kid. My grandmother had like a hardbound collection of all those, and I read them, every opportunity I had. It's one of the first, like one of the formative things that led to me loving a lot of the media that I love. And this interpretation of Herlock Sholmes is, I think, maybe my favorite one. I think up until now I would have said that the Sherlock, the British
Cumberbatch.
TV show, the Benedict Cumberbatch version was my favorite, but I really like this one. It kind of plays up his mercurial attitude without, like, he still is like one of the darker protagonists in this whole series, but he never, it never gets as crazy as him having like a heroin addiction and stuff like that. But I really like the characters. I really like the writing. I like the setting. I think that it's one of those things that isn't necessarily about like racism and class and things like that, but it does a really excellent job, I think, of integrating all of those themes into the kind of goofy courtroom drama investigation stuff that you normally see in a Phoenix Wright game. And I don't know, I had a great time. Like, this was maybe the game I was most excited to like get home from work and like dive back into this year. I really wanted to see what was going to happen next. I think the cases are all really clever. I think that, it does the thing that most Phoenix Wright games do, where it's like the person that committed the crime is pretty obvious, but trying to figure out how they pulled it off,
all the things together,
and
how
also
to make it obvious to everybody else.
Right, how to push them into a corner where they have to admit that they did it. I think those are all really clever twists and turns, and there's just I honestly, I think these are by far in a way my two favorite games in the series.
So
that's saying something, because I really love. No, there's a couple of cases where it gets bogged down a little bit, especially the first case in the second game, because since these games were released several years apart in Japan, like it tries to reintroduce you to all the mechanics and stuff. And if you're just if you're coming in hot at the end of the first game and you just want to see what happens, like having to go through all that stuff can be a little bit of a slog. So if you're going to play these games, I might recommend like playing through the first one and then putting it down for a little bit, even though you might find it hard because the mystery at the center of everything is really, really good. I think that of all these games, this one does the best of having a cohesive arc from start to finish that ties all of the cases together. And I think that outside, it's not as good as Ghost Trick, but it's the second best work in Shu Takumi's career, and that guy is one of my favorite. I think at this point I could say he's one of my favorite mystery writers or mystery creators.
I mean, that's the big thing with this, right? Is like he didn't do 5 and 6,
right?
And
neither of them.
Neither of them.
Think so.
Okay.
Yeah,
he consulted a little bit on them, I think,
but he's back in a big way.
He was doing this instead.
You can tell he's really, really having a good time with this. It's such a fun thing, and man, the Sherlock Holmes things are they're so much fun. Where you're like, he makes these deductions, he makes these observations, and then he makes these dumbass deductions, and then your character's like. Especially you have your friend is named Susato, and she's like a huge fan of Sherlock Holmes because his stories appear in magazines. And then he makes these deductions and she's like, that was really brilliant, but I'm not quite sure that you got it right all the way. And then your character's like, I think we can fix this. And then they like go through the deduction again and like find the thing that he missed and then fix it. And then it's kind of hard to tell if he's doing this on purpose to screw with you or if he's just that absent-minded and goofy, and they never really pull
they never answer that for you
way, but yeah, it's good. It's just a really good thing.
I'm playing this right now. I didn't get around to it when it came out, but I did pick it up, but I'm finally playing it because of Eric and Anthony both talking it up so much, and I'm enjoying it so far, but I'm nowhere near far enough along to have been able to evaluate it.
Yeah.
So I love this series. The first 3 games I loved, but every time I play one of these, including this one, which is why it's not on my list, I generally take like a fucking year to play, because I play one case and then I put it down for a while, and then I pick it back up at a new case, and then I put it down. So I've only played through the first case. I haven't even met Sherlock Holmes.
Oh wow!
Yet I played through the first case, and then I put it down, and I know I'll pick it back up and play the second case, and then I'll put it down and pick it up and play the third case. I actually never finished Ace Attorney 5. But that's also because that game wasn't very good.
5 is maybe the weakest of the second trilogy.
What were you going to say, Mike?
Well, I was going to say I'm super excited to play this game, but I'm waiting for the iOS port of it to come out, because that's where I played 5 and 6, and the iOS ports of these games are really good. Because your phone is way stronger than a DS, and actually at this point probably than a Switch.
Depends on your phone.
The games. So the games run at really high resolution, and they're really great to have on the go if you got like 20 minutes on a bus ride or something. Like it's just a good way to play them, I find. So I'm just gonna be patient, because I don't want to play them on my Switch because I don't bring my Switch with me when I go to work.
Yeah, you can't put
Too big.
Can't put your Switch in your pocket.
Exactly.
That
Not
depends.
these.
Hey,
Not these
you know what?
pants.
Man, I heard they're bringing like Jenkos are on the comeback, man. So you know
Yeah.
what?
Totally. I was gonna make a Jinko joke myself, so I appreciate that. Except it's
And I'm
not
pretty
a
sure-
joke; it's real.
I'm pretty sure this is inevitably going to come to iOS because I think the Japanese version actually already is on phones.
I'm sure. Nintendo probably shelled out for some level of exclusivity, some window of exclusivity, though.
All right,
Probably.
so let's move on to number
Right.
6.
Only 6 games left.
Only 6 games
Six
left.
games
Right.
Let's go with
Lord.
number 6 game.
This
Mike's
is the section
Mike's
of
number
games
1.
that most people voted number 1.
Yes, this is where all of our individual number 1s live. In this
Except Joe.
case, we're talking about
Okay.
Super Hark Bros 2, which was Mike's number 1, I believe.
All right, now I got some time, so let me get into this here.
Yeah.
So anyone who's heard me say
Sorry, I was in the bathroom.
anyone who's heard me say 5 or 6 words in a row in the last year and a half has heard me say something about Kaizo hacks.
It's true.
In 2020, I decided to pick up playing Kaizo, and I got into it, and I was having a lot of fun. 2021 was the first year where I really, developed my skill a lot. Played a whole bunch of different hacks, played some really challenging ones over the course of the year. I know a whole hell of a lot more about the genre than I did at the start of the year. Also, you know how they say like on Steam, like in, I don't know, 2019 or something like that, more games were released on Steam than had previously existed in Steam, something like that?
Yeah, something like
Well,
that.
Kaizo just has the same thing right now. 2021, there were over 200 Kaizo hacks released out of a total of like 500 or 600 ever made.
Feel like I'm being like pitched like, no, it's not a cult. Join, you'll see.
The line
You
just
got
keeps
these
going up.
students,
You know, if
man,
you
I'm
invest
telling
now,
you.
get in on the ground floor, Alex.
You'd be a fool not to. Is really
Every
what it
dollar
is.
that you put into Kaizo today is going to be $1,000 by next year.
Exactly.
In his last drop, Q said that you should play Kaizo. So
Oh boy.
No,
that's
no,
too
let's
dark.
not. Let's
Now
not
you've
go
taken it
there.
Too far. Yeah.
That,
All right,
yeah,
anyway,
that's a very poor analogy.
Tell me about the fun Kaizo game, Mike.
So, early in the year of 2021, when I was still much more of a rookie at Kaizo, the Super Hark Bros 2 dropped, and it was just the perfect game for me at the perfect time. It's like a kind of easy-ish Kaizo game, like harder than the really baby beginner stuff that I was giving Anthony, but not as hard as like the ones that took a lot of effort to kind of fight my way through. And I thought this game was super fun and creative. I really liked the aesthetics, the music that was chosen, something about the way the levels were designed. I feel like they really had a good sense of place to them. It's got a bit more of like a melancholy aspect to it a lot of the time. Like it's not all sunshine and blue skies and rainbows and things. But overall, I just had a really good time playing through the game. So I decided that I was going to learn how to speedrun it. And basically, speedrunning this game was my most impactful kind of gaming event of the year, I think. I believe I did 2 rounds of speedrunning it, like the first time that I learned it, and then I came back to it maybe 3 months after that. And then I really, really went in and just spent like a month where it was basically all that I did was play this speedruns of this game. So, I mean, in the time that's happened since, I have played a whole bunch more Kaizo hacks, and, you know, it's kind of hard for me to say if there were better ones than this. No other game that I played this year had the same amount of impact on my life as Super Hark Bros 2. I think it's really fun, and it's a really great work by Chris G, who's pretty well known in the Kaizo hacking community, and it really got me to push myself in a way that no other game has before or since in on the speedrunning front.
are you on the, are you on the leaderboard?
I'm on the leaderboard for sure. I'm halfway through, which I'm officially 5th out of 9 on the leaderboard. It doesn't sound great, but the people at the top are fucking good. So I don't know. I'm in good company at the very least. I could come back to this now and probably improve on my time, but I don't know that I would ever crack the top 3 because you've got 2 of the very, very best Kaizo speedrunners in the world who are in spots 1 and 2 right now. So it would be a hell of a grind if I wanted to try and get that good at it. But I would like to come back to it and at least improve my time to the point where I surpass the creator of the game himself, which should be doable. So anyway, it's just this was my year in video games in a nutshell. And I played the any percent route of the game, which is the one that does not require you to complete every level. You just want to get basically roll the credits on the game. And that's really like a very nice greatest hits of the best levels of the game. There's only a couple of really good levels that you miss by doing that. And it keeps the speed run down to a very reasonable length where even I can finish it in under half an hour. So just, it's very snackable once you get kind of good at it. I will say one very frustrating decision is that for the speedrun leaderboards only, the author of the game decided that you're not allowed to use the quick retry feature that is in most Kaizo hacks. So every time you die, you got to hear the little jingle and go back to the map and reload the level.
Yeah, that's such a weird decision in a game where you're going to die a lot.
Yeah,
Well, you don't have to learn to play the game that way. You can put on instant retry for your first playthroughs, but for some reason on the leaderboard, Chris G decided he was going old school. He's been around since kind of the beginning of the big Kaizo wave, so I don't know. Some people hold on to weird old traditions that make things painful, and also made it so that not many people speedrun his game. So there you go. Anyway, wonderful game. Had a great time with it.
I think I watched you play quite a bit of this, and I enjoyed most of that.
I remember you said that you liked Side Tree, the level at the end where there's a vine growing to the right.
Yes, I love that level. I love the concept of that level. I love the way it looks, and I don't think I could do it, but I did really enjoy watching you kind of master that one. It's cool. Anyway, all right. So are we ready to move on then?
Sure.
Number 6.
All right, let's move on.
Weirdly,
to
no one
number
else has
6.
much to say about that one.
No, I don't think any. I mean, like I said, I watched you play it, and it's fucking dope.
I do like that the top 24 or whatever is like a bunch of games and a bunch of Kaizo level. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I mean, they all came out this year, so.
No, they did. I'm not saying it's illegitimate. I'm just like
200 Kaizos.
Whoops, I hit the wrong one.
Again, you'd be a fool not to get it now.
Let's talk about my number 1 game since Kurt isn't here.
I am here.
All right, well, whatever. We'll talk about my number 1 game anyway, which is Pathfinder: Wrath of the Righteous, which I have not finished. It is
12 billion hours.
You remember? Hey, do you guys remember Baldur's Gate 2? You guys remember Icewind Dale or Neverwinter Nights? These classic PC RPGs. This is one of them. But also, hey, do you guys remember Might and Magic?
Two of them?
Do you guys remember Might and is it Heroes of Might and Magic? What's the technical
the strategy game is Heroes,
Yeah, Heroes of Might and Magic.
I fucking remember that game. God damn, I love that game.
I played one of those. I played quite a bit of Heroes of Might and Magic 5, which was like a 3D interpretation.
That's kind of like a black sheep of the family.
Well, so I didn't play. So because of the way that game was constructed, a lot of people brought the older ones into that, so you could play with like updated graphics. And so I played a bunch of Heroes of Might and Magic 3 in Heroes of Might and Magic 5. And so this game is basically a Heroes of Might and Magic game because there's people on this team that actually worked on those games.
I didn't know that.
Fused with a Baldur's Gate game, but it doesn't like chop them up, so it's like 130 hours long because it's like 2 full campaigns of those.
Long.
And so
I only want one of those things.
Yeah, it's that's kind of, and so that is this game's one of the coolest things about this game, and one of the game's greatest weaknesses is that because it's trying to fuse these 2 giant things together, it kind of the biggest weakness is that the connective tissue between those 2 things isn't always super duper strong, but because it's based on Pathfinder, which is like a fork of Dungeons and Dragons, where like Dungeons and Dragons after 3.5 kind of decided to simplify itself and remove a lot of the more intricate mechanics out in favor of like simplifying and emphasizing like role playing over combat mechanics. And Pathfinder went hard the other direction. So there's like literally like hundreds of skills, and there's like 24 classes, and each class has several flavors of things that you can do. And I picked a pretty basic one, which is Cavalier, where I can have an animal companion that I ride. And because this is Pathfinder and the world that it's set in, my animal companion is fucking Triceratops named Barb, because it's got horns. Anyways, And also, I picked an ASMR character, which means that I'm like half angelic, so I have wings and a halo, so I'm like a winged haloed person that rides a dinosaur and hits people with a spear. And then
You always talk really quietly.
I was gonna
yeah,
say you whisper a
ASMR,
lot.
yeah. And then
Yeah.
also on top of all of that, um, this game has this thing called like mythic abilities or mythic classes, and so the setting of the game is that you're trying to fight off this like hundreds of years ago, a lady, a witch, like fused the world of demons, like opened a portal to the world of, so it's Doom. She opened a portal to the world of demons, and there's this huge like wound in this area that is like leaking all the evil demon lords into the like the human and elf world. And so they've been fighting this war for like 150 years, like trying to push the demons back and close the portal, which they call the world wound. And so like they've actually like gotten help from angels in heaven that have showed up and tried to fight them off, and like nobody can figure out how to close this thing. And they've been all these crusades that have failed, and then your character kind of shows up and has access to these mythic classes, and nobody's really sure why. And so the first part of the game, you're fighting in a city, and you have like a little base that's inside of a bar in town, and then you like prove yourself there like a worthy commander. And so the queen shows up and she's like, I'm going to put you in charge of this next crusade and to try and push the demons back. And so then they put you in a tent, and then they open up the Heroes of Might and Magic style like tactical or the strategy kind of style game where you're like building armies, and then there's like these grid-based tactical fights where like you have one unit that is representative of like 100 archers or whatever, and then they're fighting against the enemies. I'll fast forward the video in a minute to show all that. And so you do that, that's act 2, is you like fighting your way into the city that the demons caught, and then you capture the demon city and you retake it for the humans. And then when you've beat that area, you unlock your ability to get these mythic classes, which like puts you on the road to like godhood, which is kind of thematically similar to the Divinity games.
I was about to say.
But like, so like in this game, they kind of like, they give you a bunch of different paths. You can pick those. So like early on in the game, I helped these priests in this temple of Desna, which is like the chaotic, like freedom loving god. And I sang a song with them, and that opened up the ability for me to become like one of those types of gods. But you also like, you fight this guy that is like a bug man. And so one of the paths you can choose is, instead of burning like the remnants of the bug man, you can like secretly take it and then like figure out how to turn yourself into an evil bug man. And then instead of
Snort the bug man.
and well, yeah, but then instead of like being friends with your companions and like helping them out, you like consume them and turn them into like evil bug men.
That sounds kind of awesome.
It's kind of
That's
awesome. Yeah, there's
amazing.
another path where like there's this guy that's like in the Terry Pratchett books, there's like these guys that are like the accountants of the universe that kind of like try and make sure that things don't swing too far one way or the other. And like one of those gets killed trying to close the world wound, and you find his like dagger, and so you can kind of become one of them, and then that gives you the ability to like reset things and like bring people back to life that shouldn't have died and things. You become like one of these judgment kind of characters, or there's like one where you can become an angel, there's one where you can become a giant golden dragon. In mine, I get to, like, these butterflies follow me around, and when I find areas that used to be of some natural beauty, I can like get rid of the demonic corruption and like restore the natural beauty. I also have a giant floating like island that follows me around, which serves as my home base. And
Christ.
I also have this cool little dragon that loves jam that follows me around, and is just like a bonus companion that you only get if you take this path. And so there's just all these different ways that you can kind of play it that really change. Like the campaign, I don't think changes, but the amount of role playing options that you have on that side is just really it's like almost too much. Like
Like
that's one of the
30 things just
reasons.
now.
Yeah,
Like,
one of the reasons that I decided to play Cavalier is because the amount of spells and stuff that you get as a spellcaster. Or there's like shamans and witches, and they all have like their own like
oh,
18 different versions of a fire spell, and like
there was when you were playing this game one time, I started looking at spells and stuff, and I
Yeah.
found there was like a pit. You could make like an
I made
evil
the pit.
as a
It's in the
wizard.
video right now. Is one of my
Yeah,
characters makes
but
a
then
giant.
remember, I went on a tear looking up how many different pit spells there
There's
were,
like-
and
yeah.
there's like 8.
Yeah.
Like you can make
Yes,
like
there
8
is.
different pits. It's
Yep.
like what the.
The one I have now with Nenio, who's like a fox lady who has like ADHD, and she forgot she like the fox people in this game can like turn themselves into humans, like they can cast a glamour spell, and she did that and then forgot that she was a fox lady, and so at some point she just like forgets to keep casting the spell and turns back into a fox, and you're like, hey, you're a fox, and she's like, yeah, I guess I am, I don't know, and then but she's the one that casts a giant pit spell. Anyway, that's a bunch of companions that are all pretty well written and pretty well fleshed out.
So it's a 150-hour game that you need to play 12 times.
Pretty much, yeah. So if you want the game that never ends,
Like
this will be
Saga
the
Frontier,
one for
but
you.
not
Here,
shit.
I'm gonna just fast forward a little bit. So in addition to the giant Baldur's Gate style thing with the turn-based combat that you were just watching me play, there's also this gigantic map, and then
I've got to see some of the Heroes of Might and Magic stuff.
Yeah, in this mode, you can kind of see the like all the different armies that I have are on the side there, and so you're like in this mode, you're like accumulating resources, and then you can spend money to hire different types of mercenaries and things, and then they'll join your army, and you can hire generals that have different abilities, and then you send those generals out into this big map, and then you can have them defeat the demons on the map or have them overtake their fortresses, and then that will open up places for different side quests for you as your commander and your group to go in and explore in the Baldur's Gate style thing. It's pretty wild, man. Like the combat stuff, which I just fast forwarded to, is pretty basic. It's not as complicated as it is in Heroes of Might and Magic, but there's tanky people and people on horseback that, you know, can't take a lot of damage, and archers and mages that have different, like there's like mage classes in the tactical thing that have access to portions of the spell book from the
Jesus Christ, what happened to that guy? You exploded him into bits.
I'm pretty strong. This is my strongest army, and this was a pretty weak fight because I just wanted to show it off. But my archers did so much damage to them, it killed them in one hit. But some of the battles are where you're a little bit more evenly matched. According to the in-game timer, I've played like 50 hours, and according to the Steam timer, I've played like 70, because we'll have to like redo the battles a few times to kind of figure out how to do it. And that's why I haven't finished it. I think I'm almost done with Act 3 of 5, and it's just, there's so much game. There's kind of too much game. And I do kind of wish that when you're playing as your character and not just doing the strategic stuff, like sometimes people will show up in your base and like want to talk to you, and then you like listen to all of your different companion characters give their opinion on what you should be doing, and then like your character goes, yes, I see everything clearly now, and it's the only dialogue option, and then you like pick which path you want to take. So it's just like, it's one
a lot
of
of
those
pathfinding in this game.
Yeah, well, it's one of those. It's like that's the thing that's supposed to connect the strategy layer to the RPG layer, but it's a little that side of it's a little clunky. But it's just it's really something. There's just I've never seen one of these games that had this much stuff in it before, and I'm still kind of sorting through it. So I decided to put it at number 1 because when I was in love with it, it was definitely the thing that I loved the most and sunk the most time into, but. It's entirely possible that the whole thing will just completely fall apart by the time I get to the end, if I ever get.
By the time you get 140 hours into it, and then it'll be terrible.
Or maybe the story will fall apart. Like, I enjoy the story. You know, it's pretty basic, but I've enjoyed it so far. Maybe all the companion quests will suck. I don't know. But anyway, we should move on to our number 6 game of the year, which is let's say it's Echoes of the Eye. The DLC for The
Yep,
Outer Wilds.
The Outer Wilds.
Oh.
So 2019's number 3 game, Outer Wilds.
I believe it was my number
Which-
1 that year.
My number 1, your number 1, and Mike's number like somewhere in the middle. This is a DLC for that, which is integrated into the game. So one, just based on what we just said, obviously Eric and I were very much into that game. This DLC is not independent from it. It's essentially an additional component of it. So they, when you start the game, for those that don't know, you're an alien who wakes up, as it's shown here, and you're training to be an astronaut. You have your little wooden spaceship that you eventually get into and start exploring the solar system, or the system that you're in, and trying to unravel what's going wrong, because within, I can't remember the
22
time frame.
every 22 minutes
22?
the sun
I couldn't remember if it's
explodes
22
and
or
everyone
20.
dies.
Yeah, and everyone
Like
dies.
the one Golden Girls episode.
Exactly.
Yep, and so
The
then
perfect
you're
amount of
trying
time.
trying to determine what the hell is going on, and exploring the planets that are there, and
Right.
each
It's
of
a
the
giant
planets is
it's
unique.
a giant puzzle box that
Yep.
never gives you any explicit instructions on how to solve
Yep.
the puzzle box.
And you
And this DLC is like a new bit that
This
they've
is-
stuck into the puzzle box.
Yeah, so it starts, and you can go into the museum that's on the first planet that you start on here, and there's a new exhibit which it sort of talks about the satellite that maps the system. And if you investigate that a little bit, you find that, hey, there's something that eclipses the sun that's in these pictures, and what's up with that?
There's a
you eventually
mysterious
go-
another body in orbit
Yeah,
around the sun that you can't see.
Exactly, that you couldn't see, and eventually you make your way to it and start to explore it, and pretty much the entirety of the new content is within that new body. And I'm not going to go super deep into the details here, because as a exploratory sort of puzzly kind of thing, there's spoilers all over the place. But one of the things that myself and Eric and Anthony, who's not here because he's dope, enjoyed about the first game was just kind of doing that exploration and kind of figuring out what's going on, and then finding something that would completely reorient your understanding of what was happening, or make something clear or whatever. And the things that you do, the stuff that you explore in the new content, just does that all over again. It captures that same sense of exploration and wonder, and just kind of trying to suss out what's happening and find something, and suddenly go, oh my god, or the sort of I was in the shower one morning and went, oh shit, and that's something that the original game had, and this sort of continues that. I didn't know if they'd be able to sort of capture the same sort of specialness of the original game, and I feel like they did. Anthony has agreed with me, and we've talked about it quite a bit afterwards. And it's it's a really unique experience, even though it's expanding on the original game. There are a unique aspects of what happens there, and what goes on. It elaborates on the story in a way that's interesting, but doesn't sort of cheapen it. The story of the original game, that is.
Right. Kind of gives some
and-
details on why the
Yep.
universe is exploding. There's like another
Exactly.
alien species, right, that like made that satellite, and
Yeah, the satellite. Yeah, you spend your time exploring the inside of this satellite and find out what's up with this other species that's there,
right.
and how what they do bears on what happens in the original game and so on. So
I don't. If I ever
What
figure
they
out
do bears
how
on
to, if I ever figure out how it gets,
yeah,
how to get there,
Eric
I
got
don't.
jammed up and essentially couldn't kick off the new content.
Yeah. I don't. Plus,
Um,
playing it when I went back and tried to play it, it's just like the weird flying and stuff. I don't. It took me a while to get over that originally, and then
Yeah.
not having played it for a couple of years, and then going back to it was like, it's gonna take me a while to get over this.
It did take me a
again,
little bit to reorient to sort of trying
'cause
to
it's just a
maneuver
little,
the ship and all that
little
stuff.
wonky, but
hmm
yeah.
There's a charm to it, but I agree with that.
Yeah.
So, but
So
it's really fucking good. It has great music. It has great atmosphere. It's great. Yes.
I've become more interested in playing that game because I saw someone talking about how all the music is like heavily inspired by Midwest emo, like American football and stuff. And so now I'm like, oh, well, if the music's that good, then I guess maybe I should check it out.
I mean, the music is really good. I'm not sure if I could.
It's just kind of like folksy.
Yeah, I'm not sure I could connect it to what you just said, but I don't know. Anyway, moving on.
Let's move on to number 6.
Well, number 6.
A little bit.
Number 6.
of that Metroid Dread.
Mike and I voted for, and Alex will shout us down.
I borrowed this footage from GiantBomb.com.
Metroid Dread.
Metroid Dread. All right, I'm just gonna put this out there here.
Yeah.
Alex doesn't like this game because it is not exactly a Metroid game.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, it's not.
And I do like this game because I think that what it does is really cool, even if it's not exactly a Metroid game. Metroid Dread is a super duper fast action game with exploration, but like it does gate you off a lot more than most Metroid games do. There's a lot of spots where there's only like 1 or 2 ways that you can go. But I think the game has incredible controls to start with. I think just playing this game, the movement is so much fun. And I just love to move Samus around and run and jump. And it's got pretty challenging boss fights that I thought were generally pretty interesting. Not like incredible, but like pretty good, which is a step up compared to most Metroid boss fights. Most Metroid boss fights are just big old slugfests where you've got 1,400 health and they've got 6,000 health, and it's just going to take you 10 minutes of shooting missiles at them before
you're
one
going
of
to
you
unload
dies.
all your super missiles, and then you have to figure out what else you're going to do.
Yeah. So I mean, I know that Alex hates a lot of things about this game, including the Emmy sections. I thought the Emmy sections were awesome, and the reason why I enjoyed them is because I never went slow. As soon as I would get into one of those Emmy zones, I would just book it and just try to outmaneuver and run away from the Emmy. And I thought they were tense as hell. And anytime that I messed it up and got killed, well, it only invested about 15 seconds because I wasn't like slowly creeping around and hiding in corners and using the invisibility cloak and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I understand why Alex isn't a fan.
I'm just waiting quietly.
I concur with how
This game of the
Mike
year, we mostly try and be nice, you know.
played this game. I did the same thing, right? It's about split second running, making decisions, getting through, not worrying about being too precise or anything like that, and just trying to get through it as fast as you can to get to the point where you can then find the power up that you need to then take the Emmy out. And then go through and sort of take apart the area and clean it all up and so on and so forth. I agree that the movement set and the powers around that are good. As someone who loves the original Metroid, which doesn't not only doesn't hold your hand, but doesn't give a fuck about your hand, and has no quality of life to it at all. I still didn't have a problem with the way this game is laid out and any particular linearity or whatever it is, because it's so big. There's so much to explore that it didn't bother me that things were sealed off, because I was sort of making my way across the map and finding out what things were around and what things I'd come back for and so on. So
On a first play, it doesn't feel that closed off. It's when you kind of stop and start to go back and really poke at the seams that you're like, oh, I can't go this way anymore.
Yeah.
I disagree with that. However, that's not my problem with the game. So that's not. I don't care. Like Fusion, to me, it feels about as closed off as Fusion was, and I don't mind that. I think that's fine. That's like the least of this game's problems, but so that bothers some people quite a bit. But
so you hated the Emmy sections.
Okay, I was like, are you guys done? I'm not gonna shit on it too much, but this game, it's like 50% a game I really, really like. Like when I'm just running around exploring and doing stuff, it's like, yeah, it feels good to be Samus. I kind of am over the melee counter. I kind of wish that wasn't a thing, but whatever. At least they made it a little easier to use, and you can do like some cool shit. You can do it in the air and while crouching.
Returns.
I thought it was kind of cool where like they even take some of her like Smash Brothers animations and incorporate that into like if you do a crouching counter and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, dude, that's her up smash. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, that's cool. Like, there's some like neat ideas there. The problems are just like the fucking Emmy sections, man. It's like, hey, you know what I think of when I think of Metroid? It's like, do you want to play hide and seek with a robot dog? It's like, no. And it's like, do you want to just run away and get instant killed by a robot dog? It's like, no. I want to just like poke around and explore stuff. And it's like, well, you can't do that until you get through this dog shit. And it's like, fuck, man. So, and then the boss fights, I've heard lots of people say like, oh, these are great. And I feel like they're just like super boring. And it's just like, everyone's like, no, they're really good. I'm like, I don't understand. Like, I feel like I'm on like another planet or something. And so it's just like, the game is, it was this constant experience before I just said, fuck it, I'm done. Of just like, yeah, man, this is great for like 45 minutes to an hour, and then running into a boss fight or an Emmy section and just being like, now I gotta suffer through this for a little bit, and then that's done. And then it's like, oh, this is great again. Like, this is awesome. I'm gonna keep going. And I get like really excited and want to keep playing it. And then there's another Emmy section, and it's like you see that fucking door, and it's like, fuck, man. Like, God fucking damn it. Like, it just totally kills the pacing. It's not. I just can't get into it, and it's just this constant back and forth and up and down, and it's just like, it's a drag. It's a bummer. It's almost a game I really, really like a lot, and it's just not. It just constantly like poops its pants, and I'm like, Samus, come on.
It probably has some way to deal with that. I mean,
it probably does.
I saw those,
it's like a still suit. I assumed that her suit was just like a still suit.
I saw those. I saw those sections and knew they would frustrate me, and that's why I haven't played it and probably won't play it. But I'm really glad that a Metroid game came out and sold really well, and hopefully that means that we'll get some more Metroid games.
That's true.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, I wouldn't want another game like this.
I would take another game with these controls.
Yeah, I mean, with all the Emmy and that bullshit, right? I wouldn't want another game that did that. If they took the control, the control, the moveset or whatever, and put it in a new place and ran with that, I'm down.
What if it was like a Metroid game with a giant map like Hollow Knight?
I was gonna say, what if it was a Metroid game, but you were a cartoon bug man?
Here's the thing: is that Nintendo is not going to make that game anymore, right? Nintendo is not going to make a game that just turns you loose and says, "I'll figure it out." Like,
well, they made Breath of the Wild. There's not a ton of guidance.
No, but
they might.
I just don't see it happening, And so, every indie developer in the history of the world has taken up that mantle. Let them make those games. I think this is actually pretty fun for what it is. I think, the action is good. The Emmy sections, if you play them fast, are super tense and just like fun, I find.
I don't agree with that.
Yeah, this
and the boss fights aren't the best.
Those are definitely very divisive. Like people either
for sure they're
fine or people really, really hate them. Like
it's not tense. It's only annoying because it's like it puts you in a new area every time, and you're like, okay, well, I don't know where this is at all.
You got to run through.
So you got to run through it,
right?
And then it's just if you get caught, it's like, well, I can technically counter this once, but it's pretty tight timing, so I probably
it's really
won't.
Tight timing.
So I'm just gonna have to go back fucking start over. So it's like you're playing the same like 20 seconds over and over, and it's just like there's no
good,
tension
Scrub.
at all.
Don't get hit.
There's no state. And then,
You
then I
sucker.
do get through it, and what's my reward is like, okay, it's over, and it's like, oh, well,
That's it. Yeah.
that's it. Like, do I,
I mean,
get
your
anything?
reward is you get a whole other section that you creep around in.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
explore that
I
you
know it's
want.
then you get a part of the game that
It's-
I like. And
Yeah,
then
I
you-
mean, for me, it
until-
was not that big an impediment because, for the most part, I didn't get stymied that long,
We have to,
Yeah.
and so
we have to
it didn't
move on.
bother me. But I get that, people don't dig it, including our
It's
friend Alex here.
definitely the
And,
most
you know,
divisive part of the game.
I'm not going to yuck your yum or yum your yuck or whatever.
You better not.
Yeah.
I will say I'm glad that they put in a divisive thing in this game because they could have made this game extremely boring and forgettable.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
true.
it's true.
They gave
Somebody's
this some
like taking a
personality.
risk,
They went for it.
like, yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
I can tell by the flashing at the bottom of the screen that apparently it's now Hitman time.
It's Hitman time. Well, I don't. Unless you have anything else.
That's
nice
fine,
that
that's
you
fine, I
wanna say
think-
about
Nope.
Metroid.
No.
We all-
I'm so happy that they made a new one of those, and it's pretty good. Because
Yeah.
I honestly I really didn't think I didn't.
I
know that they were
honestly
ever gonna
had-
do that. So
I really hoped it was going to be decent, and I liked it more than decent. So
I gotta
That was
resize
good.
This window.
I liked it more than decent too.
I love myself, Metroid. I'm glad that it still exists.
Mhm.
Please do more.
All right.
Thank you for buying it, everybody that hated the Emmy section.
All right, we should move on.
Are
to
we in
number
the
5.
top 5
We're in
here?
the top 5. We're getting there.
Top 5, the 55 games in our top 5.
Yo, check it out. They made another Hitman game.
Hey,
It's really,
they
Hey,
ended the
baby.
trilogy.
it's really fucking good. Here's the thing.
It's really
The-
fucking
The
good.
three best game mechanics. The three, like, if you want to single out like my favorite feeling game mechanics of the last, like, we'll say like 5 or 10 years, it's the jump dash jump from Mass Effect Andromeda, which I played through this year and really liked. It's the slide from Apex, and it's the throwing a melee item at somebody's face in Hitman, which is just, if you could somehow combine all three of those things, it would be you jump dash and then
You know what it
in the air
is?
you land and slide like Apex, and then you pick up a goddamn battle axe and you suction it to somebody's face, and then you overhand chuck it and like split their dome in half like you can in Hitman. And it's just, it
The-
never gets
the
old. Like
throwing-
I never want to use lethal weapons. I never really want to use guns. I just want to throw cans of tomato sauce at people and knock
The
them
throwing
the fuck
thing
out.
I just realized is Hotline Miami.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
You
kinda
just
Yeah, a
show
little
up,
bit,
Miami.
you're like, oh shit, that guy, whack.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I, when Hitman came back in 2016, it was one of those things where it was like I don't know if I really like. I liked Hitman 2 and Hitman Blood Money. Like, those were games that were conceptually really fascinating and really cool, and had a lot of clever scenarios and things in them. But the mechanics were just never really there. And then
Yeah,
when
they kind of played like shit.
yeah, and then when they put out Hitman Redo in
2016,
2016
yeah.
as like
Yeah.
as like a episodic thing where they released a
fixed all
chapter every couple of weeks and the mechanics just work. Like, the mechanics were consistent, and you could make your guy do what you wanted him to do consistently, and the rules of stealth and things were all very clearly drawn out and made sense. And it was just, they finally made good on all the promise of all the Hitman games. And then they put out the second one that was really good, and then they put out this third one where they've added a bunch of cool new gimmicks to the formula, right? Like, now there's a level where you can be a detective, you can dress up as a detective and like try and solve a murder mystery by finding evidence in the big giant crazy clockwork stage that they've built. And there's one
That has
Sherlock
secret
Holmes to
passages.
Sherlock Holmes.
exactly, yeah.
That is, in fact, the easiest way to like
To
hit
do
the-
that
to get
level,
that target is
Yeah.
to do the detective thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's like this
I mean, I guess
level where-
alternately, if you have a sniper rifle, you could line up from just like way outside the house and like pick her off through a window.
yeah, there's other things
But-
you can do, but
But that's
Or,
rude.
or you
But-
can push her into the grave.
and you can also like, there's like multiple ways to solve the crime that all get you what you want, which is like these documents from this lady. And then there's this level, which is the penultimate level, which has a couple of really cool sections where you kind of have like an AI co-op partner that will help you kill somebody, and there's like a really amazing kill shot with that is one of the story things. And but it like they have all that stuff is built in, but also you can just like
You don't have to do any
freelance
of it.
and you can just like, I'm gonna pick up all these cans of tomato sauce and I'm gonna dress up like a butler. I'm gonna like use the butler to tomato sauce the guard and knock him out and take his thing, and now I'm a guard with tomato sauce, and now I'm going to use this to get a better guard outfit, and then I'm going to upgrade. Eventually I'll get to the target and I'll throw tomato sauce at him, and then I'll break his neck, and then I'll, you know, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
But they just like, these levels are huge,
And they're like,
and
where do all these tomato sauce come
they're
from?
so much fun to explore, and the incidental dialogue is so good and so stupid, and these games,
they've done such an amazing job of just building such intricate levels that have all these vignettes that are going on, some of which you may, you know, never see if you don't go into a certain area, and you don't have to if you don't want to. And there's so much here. It's just constantly kind of astounding to me how much they work into a level. And, you know, even with a fairly, you know, specific set of, you know, things you can do and ways that you can operate, they just remix it and change things up in interesting ways, and use those things to build interesting things.
Yeah, it's just, I like, since 2016 they've basically all just been level packs, right? I mean, they I guess they've added,
well, they've literally put all of Hitman 1 and 2 into 3, and now you can just play all 3 of them from one base thing as long as you pay.
And they're adding more stuff to
because of the way that the levels are designed, they can just drop new targets in and give them an AI routine, and then you have to like figure out how to find them and murder them based on how the level works. And it's amazing how flexible that the levels can be. It's also a very, very fun game to watch people play.
That's true. Well, so you said that you didn't, in the rave stage in Germany, you didn't even go into the actual rave, right?
Because that's another one that they layer on some clever new mechanics to, or it's not new mechanics, but instead of having 2 target, they put a whole bunch of targets around the map that you have to find and kill, and those targets are also aware that you're there, which is unique for Hitman.
They're looking
so they're
for
trying
you.
to kill you, and so you're trying to out Hitman them. I mean, one of the key elements to all these games is that everybody in the game, other than your main character, is just like the biggest dumbass possible. I mean,
they all have face blindness, some, like, you know, there's a great moment in the China stage, which is like, I don't remember what city it's supposed to be, but it's like a neon lit city in China, and you there's a segment where there's this dude who's doing, one of your targets is doing these like really gross experiments on the homeless population. So the way, the best way, I think, probably to get rid of him is to disguise yourself as a homeless person, get taken into the experiment, but then of course it goes awry and it turns out he's already found his perfect test subject, so you can go home. So then you have to like jump out a window and sneak around the building and get upstairs and take that guy's place. But when you show up in the homeless, like, so you knock out a homeless person, take their clothes, and when the guy is walking you in, well, you're dressed in like an Armani suit by default, so I don't think they'd believe you were a homeless person.
If you give the homeless guy your clothes, probably be happy.
That's
I left him next to him.
Few weird mechanics that you can't really interact with people.
You have to leave people naked when you take their clothes. Them's the rules, Mike. But when I was getting walked into the facility to like meet the guy, the guard is like, "God, you smell terrible. Like, don't you ever change your clothes?" And 47 just goes, "I change my clothes all of the
time." Wait till you guys see
all of the time.
Battle Axe. This game's so amazing.
There's this one, I think, I don't know. I don't know, Eric. I don't think I can go along with you killing all these non-targets, though.
What are you talking
Like,
about?
I go way out of my way to
This
not
is a
kill
bad
any
guy. These are all bad people at
target.
this party.
That's true.
I mean, that is true.
Um,
On the other hand,
But my goal is always
well,
to be
Diana
like,
be
as
disappointed with
clean
you.
as possible.
Anyway, I
is-
have a
agreed.
date. I have a date with a cannon, and I'm trying to get there as quickly as possible. So
Yeah, so
I'm gonna fast forward a little bit to the part here. I find the cannonballs. I load the cannon, and
Yeah, they're
now I have to
upstairs.
figure out a way to lure the guy out of the house. And because I've played this level already, I know of one way, which is to dress up as a butler and then take this torch down and light this thing that will initiate the meal, and then they'll call him out. And let's see if I can find the money shot here. I had to reload at one point. All right, here we go. Here he comes. So I've done all this stuff. I've set up this elaborate kill, and I'm in position, and then I push Y, and the magic happens. But yeah, there's so much creativity that you can have when you're playing these games that it's really incredible.
It's
And
always there. It's just so satisfying in a way that like when you pull off a kill and nobody notices or they
Yeah.
believe it's an accident. Like in the China stage, like the guy. So you get into the experiment and he's expecting like, you know, basically like a weak-willed home, because his experiments are about like using using a mind control machine basically.
Yeah.
But 47's will is too strong, so basically you like explode his brain and make it leak out of his nose because he like tries too hard to take control of your motor reflexes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And like the people there are just like, oh shit, he went too far, he's dead now. Oh well, you can leave. And like the guard just walks you out the front door and is like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And like
My favorite
There's another
or
great
one of
kill
my
in
favorite
that,
kills in
too.
these games is in, I think it's in it's in Hitman 1 in the first, or Hitman 2016. In the first level, there's 2 targets, and there's actually an achievement or the thing, that a challenge or whatever,
yeah.
to kill both of them simultaneously. And so if you can maneuver it, both of them end up, one is on the first floor and one is on like the third floor, and they'll both come out. One will come out onto a balcony and one will come out below them, and you can push one off and have her fall on top of the other one and kill them both.
Very good. Yeah. Anyway, all right, we should move on to the
I'm glad
next.
you guys like these games. It's almost 1 o'clock and we got 4 more to go.
We're almost done.
Yeah.
I mean, the top 2 we spent a ton of time talking about already. So anyway, number 4 is Ratchet and Clank Ripped Apart. Continuing the fine tradition of Ratchet and Clank games having
That's not a balls
dirty.
record. Yeah.
So this game is in the same, for me anyways, same category as Psychonauts 2, where it's like I recognize that this is really good, but I just didn't play very much of it. But this is
I'm
so
surprised
so
this
gorgeous.
It came in as high as it did.
You didn't count on Kurt and me liking Ratchet and Clank games a lot.
Yes,
Yep,
Mike,
exactly it.
Mike, I'm not even sure I realized you have a PlayStation 5. So
I
like,
do have
You talk about
Kurt,
a
Joe,
lot.
if it wasn't for this game, I don't think I would realize I had a PlayStation 5. I secured a
Doesn't play guys,
PlayStation.
though, that's for sure.
I secured
I
a
heard-
PlayStation 5 last year, and this is the one game that I played on it that I was like, fuck yeah, next generation.
I don't know. I heard this game looks like shit actually because some of the plants don't move when you walk into them.
wow.
So
Jesus.
And
Sorry.
maybe if you don't have eyes,
Sorry.
then it looks bad.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
this game wastes no time whatsoever in immediately declaring that it is a next generation as hell game. Like the opening area that you go through looks ridiculously gorgeous. It's got like ray
There's a
tracing lighting
billion
up the wazoo.
things.
okay,
Yeah,
Mike,
just like
some of the
A
plants don't move when I
hojillion
walk
particles.
in.
Yeah, that's enough of that, Joe. We don't care about
Yeah.
those people.
And you can
Um,
create rifts and zip between different chunks and seamlessly transition and all that stuff. It's just insane.
Yeah, like the way that you go from world to world, you hop into your little plane, you fly off, the screen fades out, and then you're at the new planet. Like, obviously, they're concealing like a 6-second load there, but it's so smooth, and it becomes like a stylistic choice rather than like a limitation of the hardware. You know, like
Does it have
feel-
to be installed on the SSD to like function
any
properly?
PlayStation 5 game has to be installed on the good ass SSD, or else you won't get. It's not next gen if it doesn't run off the new.
I don't think
SSD.
they'll
That's
even
right.
let you play those kinds of games without them being on that SSD or equivalent. Like you can play PlayStation 4 games off of a lesser hard drive.
Yeah, you can move those to external hard drive, but you can't. The 5s you can't.
Yeah.
You can move them off, but you can't play them from there.
I was a skeptic, but that hard drive is what makes this a next generation console. Like otherwise, it would just be a PC with a decent graphics card.
Yeah.
I think most like gaming PCs don't have this kind of sort of throughput on the hard drives. I think it's still relatively rare to find that stuff. And yeah, like just based on what I've seen from this, and I played Miles Morales, and I've played the PlayStation 5 update of the Final Fantasy 7 remake, and yeah, like load times are a thing of the past, and that sounds like trivial, but it does open up some interesting doors when people start to really make use of that, which of course most people won't.
But no elevators.
No elevators.
You don't need them anymore.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Like the first generation of HD consoles had pretty fucking abysmal load times, right? Like,
yeah.
That's a
because they were HD and the games bloated up size wise, asset wise, and didn't have good hard drives to begin with. So
if you had a hard drive, right, 360 games were HD running off
true.
of discs most of the time.
Yeah.
That's true too.
DVDs, no less. Not even like
right.
You know,
not even a Blu-ray or something.
Well, that's why the first Xbox Live games could only be like 500 megabytes because it only had like a 20 gigabyte hard drive or whatever. But anyway, so back to Ratchet and
Regardless,
Clank. Ratchet and Clank is still Ratchet and Clank
game.
Yeah, there's still like a bunch of crazy
weapons. It's got ridiculous weapons.
There's
it's
one
got crazy
that's like you can
fights.
summon a mushroom guy that'll fight for you. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can throw out a sprinkler that covers things in plants and freezes them.
Turns them into topiaries.
Yeah.
I mean, I love these games. This is not like an especially original game from the Ratchet and Clank series, but it is a particularly good one, I think.
Yeah.
I think the level design is really good. The writing is actually quite solid, I find. Like they introduced the alternate universe versions of Ratchet and Clank, which are Rivet and Kit, and I think that they're both very well written, and like I actually generally cared about the story in this game.
So does this story follow on from the original continuity, or is this picking up from the remake, the PS4 remake of the first one?
From the original.
Okay.
I think the remake is kind of standalone.
Yeah. The remake is essentially related to the movie.
Was it a movie?
Yeah.
There was a movie.
There
was
I didn't see it, but
movie.
it is. Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Anyway, it's fair to say that this is effectively the same game as you were playing on the PlayStation 2 in like 2002 or whatever. I get people who complain about that, but those games always got by in large part on their graphic design and pizzazz, and this game looks phenomenal. Like this game, they used to say like, oh, it looks like a Pixar movie. This game looks better than a lot of Pixar movies.
Yeah, it definitely looks better than the Pixar movies they were comparing those games to in 2003.
Yeah, it looks better than like the 5 years ago Pixar movies at this point, like.
Yep.
Anyway, so just a lot of fun.
It's a good fun one of those.
Agreed.
The formula still works.
It does.
Yeah.
A good 3D platformer will always be a good 3D platformer, I think.
Yep. All right.
All right. Next up is Wildermyth, which I think Kurt and I both had at 3, maybe.
Yeah. Correct.
So Wildermyth, I don't know. We've done several streams of this and talked about.
We did a
multiple people got
Sticksmas.
this as Sticksmas gifts, and then we did. I thought was a really really great stream where we did voices and read through the characters.
Was that the one where I read Alex's character as Dusty Rhodes?
Yeah, I had so much fun doing that. But this is like
we need to get back to that.
A tactical RPG that is mixed with some procedurally generated storytelling chunks that kind of get shuffled around, and it really works mostly on the strength of the writing in those chunks. It isn't something that is like necessarily going to thematically like rearrange your worldview or anything like that, but it's just some really good funny
and I'm not interested.
So it's just some really good fun and quite often quite funny scenarios and some good like
they really go for it on a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
And
it's also fun. It has like this time passing thing within the campaigns where your characters get older, and a lot of the scenarios will affect your characters. Like you can like become a what the one that I always use is like I found like a rock, a weird statue with a crystal in it, and I tried to dig the crystal out, and when I succeeded, the crystal like flew into my eye, and I slowly became like this hybrid human crystal golem thing, and lost the ability to use my weapons, but grew like blade hands and shield hands, and it was like this really cool thing that felt kind of like unique to my campaign and my character, even though because it occurs like in different places for different people if it occurs for them at all. And it's a really fun, cool thing. I think that the thing that most people get hung up on is the art style, which I think that the backgrounds and the enemies, which are kind of like watercolor paintings, I think those look really good, and the characters kind of look like a web comic thing that is done mostly to give like a bunch of flexibility in the character creator and the character procedural generation. And I think that they work, especially when
Helps
you
the
get
animation.
into the game, but it definitely looks a little it's just like kind of like
And we
kinda
only need to
like
give them a pass on
ghouls
that.
and ghosts. It looks kind of like internet art from 10 or 15 years ago, which
Yeah, a real early webcomic vibe.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm willing to
I-
give them a pass on that because so much of the rest of it is so good.
yeah.
I think they kind of look like Doug.
Or yeah, like paper dolls
Yeah.
or something like that. I like I
Yeah.
said, I think that, or they just look like when you took an art class and they taught you the basics of human body mechanics, and they had like those dolls that had like
Yeah.
the lines drawn on where facial features would go and stuff. Like that's kind of what it looks like. But
Yep.
but like I said, that gives them like a great deal of flexibility in procedurally generating characters and stuff. So I don't know. I think this is it's just a really clever thing. It has a really cool magic system as well, where you can interfuse with objects around the map, and then
That's
those
my
are what
favorite bit, yeah.
determines what kind of spells you have. So while you're in the tactical combat mode, you can like take over a fire, and then you can like summon a big fire pit on a few squares to hit enemies. Or
You're just really into magic pits, aren't you, Eric?
I think I found my
Listen.
fetch, guys.
He's right.
Yeah.
First,
He's
I think I
right.
found my thing.
best new mechanic,
Yeah.
magical pits.
Magical pits.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I had this in my sort of big list before I started culling it, and I was considering culling it, and then I was like, well, but I played a shitload of it. Like I played through the intro campaign, and then I gave it to did I give it to Anthony? Yeah, I gave it to Mike.
Alex. Or Mike.
I
I
don't
gave it
remember
to
who.
Mike, and you gave it
You-
to Alex. I think.
You gave it to Mike, and I gave it to Alex. That's what it was.
And then Anthony
Um,
picked it up because we were going to.
Anthony picked it up because we were doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was like, I should play some more of this. I'll give it to Alex, and then that'll make me do that. I played like 2 other campaigns.
Also, incredible name generator, Freya Rib. It's
Yeah,
just like I didn't
it's
pick
good.
that; it just showed up, but it's great.
Yeah.
Um,
So anyway, it's good.
yeah, and there's like 5 different campaigns, and they're all like pretty short.
They just
So you
added
can
another
like,
one.
You can play a campaign in a weekend or 2, and then you can put it down for a while, and then like come back to it later, which is kind of a fun.
Yep.
It's unlike the giant albatross around my neck that is the 140-hour campaign of Pathfinder. Like this is the total opposite of that, where I can play through a campaign and then like come back to it later and play a different campaign. So anyways, let's move on to number 2, which I think Joe and I both had at number 2 on our, or I had it. Did I have it at number 2?
No, I had
I
it
had
at
it
number
3. I
No,
had it
I
3.
had
You
you
had
it
it
at
number
2.
1. You had it number 3. I had
Yeah.
number 4.
Okay, so we all like this game. It's called Resident Evil 8 Dig.
Yes. Yes, Resident Evil 8.
Serious
8 Lich.
8 yeah.
Yeah.
This is
I
a direct
don't
sequel
know.
to Resident Evil 7.
Yeah, which is
The
One of-
7 lich.
Capcom.
I mean, that's
Joe and
honestly
I-
like kind of wild, right? There aren't that many direct sequels in the Resident Evil
no,
timeline.
right? Or
There
like
are very few.
yeah, they're like they'll be in the continuity, but not directly following up
Following
something
on,
that happened
yeah.
in the events, right? But so Joe and I did a huge ranking of Resident Evil games back around Halloween time, and we were
On
just
Halloween,
the thing that I came away with from that list is that like in our top 6 was like 4 of these recent Resident Evil games were like in our top 6 or whatever, and it's like Capcom just like 4 in a row, just like banging out great Resident Evil game after great Resident Evil game. Like this is the best time to be playing Resident Evil games, and this is a series that has been around for over 20 years. Yeah. And so that's really incredible, and they're doing really cool original things with them. And this is, I think, probably the one that is the weirdest of the games.
This is gonna sound weird because it was my number one, but this is actually my least favorite of the current run of Resident Evil games.
It's definitely better than 3, but
I definitely don't agree with that.
Well, you're definitely wrong.
You're definitely wrong.
I think it's better than 3 as well.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, anyway,
I want to play this one, but I don't want to play 3.
What's really cool about this is that it is set in this like weird gothic storybook village where there's werewolves and vampires and.
Excuse me, where what?
Werewolves.
Where? No, I'm sorry. That doesn't. Sorry, not quite.
Werewolf.
Swearwolves.
Yes, thank you, Alex.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and I mean, so part of it is that as a follow up to 7, it's kind of a disappointment. 7 was so good. I mean, obviously, like it can't have the same impact that 7 had because 7 was so different than anything else in the series that had come before it, while also being like a callback to like the first 2, or the first 1 really, in a way. But this one has some very high highs. It doesn't have anything as bad as the tanker section in 7, but it also doesn't have anything as good as like the main house.
The first third of
in
7.
Yeah.
It comes pretty close though when you meet Chris in the basement of the factory and the shit that happens there comes out. I mean that's like
comes close on which one of those?
It's just a fucking incredible like hour and a half of dumbass video game stuff. Like
here's your non-magnetic tank somehow. Here you go.
Somehow, yeah. Don't fucking worry about
It's
it.
made it of glass.
Also, now you're gonna fight a tornado. Or whatever.
I liked it, Mike. I liked it.
Yeah.
Nobody acknowledged
You're
it.
gonna fight Mold Nito.
Yeah.
Mold Nito.
Mold fucking Nito.
There's a giant fungus fetus in a cave underneath the thing, and Chris.
There's a giant fungus fetus, and
Chris tapes C4 to a knife and throws it into the fetus, and then blows up the whole town.
Yeah, he does.
Like this is just like this is.
Look, Eric? How would you have gotten that bomb up there? What would you have done?
Same thing. That's
Died.
obviously the right way to do it.
I think I need to play this.
Also,
this sounds like my Resident Evil.
Yeah, you should play this, man.
It's
This game is
insane.
it's really completely bonkers and completely batshit. I mean,
Yeah.
there's this guy, this dude is like video game Nicolas Cage. They should have just shelled out and had Nick Cage be this guy. It would have been like 5% better, even though he's like still part of one of the best things in the whole game. This game is fucking wild.
He's great. I almost said Heidenreich.
Right.
Jesus Christ.
Also, this game wins the award for the horniest the internet
Heisenberg.
got this year for Lady
Oh, man.
Dimitrescu.
Oh yeah.
Who is
Yeah.
also an incredible character, like just a great she's a giant vampire, and then the way she like bends to go through doors and stuff is just like every time I saw it I laughed my ass off. It's just a very silly game that it's the good silly parts of Resident Evil, and they just kind of do it over and over and over again.
The internet got so horny for her that Capcom had to release her official height like 3 months before the game came out.
Yeah.
Which of course made the internet hornier.
Which made the internet hornier. Because it turns out she's even bigger than Mr. X. She's 9.5 feet tall with her hat.
Right.
And then people did some really fantastic fan art of her like dunking a basketball and stuff. It was great.
and also a mod where her hat gets bigger every time she sees you.
Yes, the modern. Also, this game has like, in my view, this game has the single scariest, like, protracted segment in a Resident Evil game. When you go to the haunted dollhouse. That's
good.
like I was saying this.
I don't
recently.
care for that.
I don't remember I don't remember, but like that segment, like I had to play through it. I think I was talking to Mike about whether or not he should play this game. I think was the context. It took me a good 3 or 4 times doing that segment before I wasn't like tensed up anymore when I played through it.
That's good. There's so many cool things in this game.
Yeah, it's a lot of
The
fun,
the
and
biggest weakness is just that the hub area is a little boring to go crisscross through a bunch of times, but it's fine. It's good.
also there's an unlockable Darth Maul lightsaber
Sure.
that you
Sure.
can then use to cut up
Oh,
vampires.
also the premise of the
Terrible.
game is that your baby is kidnapped and cut up into 4 pieces and put inside of a magical cube, and then you have to get the 4 pieces
to
and then put
reassemble
them
them.
inside of a magical
I'll-
ancient
I'll buy it.
apparatus
Shut up.
to bring your baby
first-
back to life. Yeah.
The
You
first
had
time
me
I
at
was
your
watching,
baby was in a magical cube. You didn't need to keep
4.
talking.
It's 4 magical cubes, Alex. Thank you very
Oh,
much.
okay,
right.
okay.
That's right.
Well, sorry, I apologize.
the first time I saw someone playing this game, it was Barbarous King who was streaming it, and I saw him as he collected the first of the baby parts, and when we realized what was happening, everyone lost their mind.
Yeah. It's pretty dumb.
It's
Yeah.
I don't know.
extremely-
What a fun weird game.
Yeah, it feels like Resident Evil 4 in a lot of ways, but you know
They're definitely
It
like
has it.
that
Yeah,
was intentional.
it
yeah,
has
that was
some.
intentional,
Yes, for sure. It
100%.
definitely has some structural similarities to Resident Evil 4. It is referencing that, but it is also referencing like the last 40 years of horror movies and just horror in general in a way that really appeals to me. Like that was the
Yeah.
thing about 7 was like this is the first third of that is just like this is Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which was a thing that I love, but it isn't something that I generally assume anybody else has seen. It's like not a thing
Yeah.
that you can assume that. And then that game was just like, no,
unfortunately,
we're just
there's
gonna
no
borrow a
option.
bunch of stuff from that and put it in here, and then I don't know, it was great. It's great.
I mean, it's Hammer Santa. Everybody
Yeah.
loves Hammer Santa. Santa with a hammer.
right there in the name.
Unfortunately, in Resident Evil 7, there's no option to sing "Bringing in the Sheaves" when you fight Jack.
All right.
I mean, you can just do it
yeah, you
yourself.
just have to bring that
That's right.
yourself. All right.
That's
Anyways,
good.
let's move on to number 1, shall we?
Number one.
Number
Number
one.
one.
What's number
Of
Well,
one?
the
it is.
year.
Which is the one game that all 4 of us voted for.
The only one that all 4 of us voted for. Yeah.
It's pretty.
know what it
That's
is.
why the system works.
It's pretty.
It's
Pretty
true.
fucking great. What is it, Mike?
I'll also say I'm the only person that voted for the top half of this list. That everything on the top half of this list. So that's how that goes.
Good job
Yeah.
being a fucking basic bitch, Kurt.
That's me. Yeah. That's exactly right. This is
Try
my.
having a personality, Kurt.
Art just tries to agree with everybody.
All right.
He just wants to make everyone happy.
I'm a $2 hooey.
Yeah. Inscription is a game that does not need a whole lot of explaining from us. It's just
No, it needs the opposite of that for people who haven't played it. I would
well,
say.
and also it has been like talked about by so many people. Like
Yes.
it's an independent card game, more or less, made by one person that has made at least 1 or 2 major websites number 1 game of the year, which I think maybe speaks to the kind of it's kind of a
But
fractious
that's
year.
that's less prestigious than it making in the 12th Annual Sticky Awards our number
Right.
one.
Obviously.
Well,
That's
mathematically
real.
proven to be the game of the year.
Right. Yes.
But we already talked about a deck building roguelike, but this is one that's got tons and tons of cool ass atmosphere, and that also combines a certain amount of like escape room style puzzles into the game. And I will say this is my favorite non-Kaizo game of the year. I put it number 2 on my list. I did not have like the greatest time the whole time I was playing this game. I think if we talk about this game in general terms, it has basically like 3 acts, and the first act is incredible, and then the stuff that comes after that is good, but it's not to the same level as what you're seeing now on the screen, which is, I just want to reiterate, incredible. And so like for the last kind of 40 to 50% of the game, I was a little bit bummed out that I wasn't enjoying it as much. But after that, I kind of like thought about the game a lot. I watched other people playing it. Waypoint did an incredible playthrough of this game with Rob and Natalie, where they like literally, I think, did basically everything there is to do in the game, got every card they could. And then I continued playing this game because they've released a mod for it that turns it into like an endless style, like Ascension based deck builder game. Which is all based on the best part of the game. So, like, because it wound up occupying such a large space in my brain for the last quarter of this year, it kind of wound up becoming my favorite game from 2021 that does not involve a plumber.
How do you know you won when you play Casey's mod? Is there
There's
like
no-
an
I
end,
don't-
or you
I
just play until you lose?
I mean, it's an ascension based thing. So like you go through and you beat the bosses from this part of the game, and then you win, and then you start over, and the game gets harder. Basically, like
Oh.
you choose like a series of penalties to apply, and you have to like earn a certain number of penalty points before you can reach the next level. Basically, so it's like once you've done it with 40 penalty points, you have to do it with 50 or whatever.
Right. Okay.
So you can choose your poison, and as you go, they unlock more. And actually, what's cool about Casey's mod is that there's a bunch of cards and things in it that aren't in the main game. Like it does expand the content of the game.
Does it
Give you
still
some cool
have all
stuff.
the like broken mechanics, like the 2020
Oh, yeah.
Ouroboros and the
Well, it doesn't have that one in particular because you only get that by playing through the different sections of the
Right,
game.
yeah.
I mean, you can make a 2020 Ouroboros if you're dedicated. If you find some way to like farm enough mana and just like play that card over and over again, you can do it. But you have a lot less time to play with because you're only doing basically one playthrough.
I just wanted to highlight this thing that just played on the video, which is the first time the stoat talks to you.
Oh my god!
So
so cool.
I played this first time. I played the demo that came out during the Steam Halloween thing. That was just a little bit before the game came out, and Joe and I were kind of hanging out and playing demos. And this was the last one I played because I knew it was going to be cool. Because I'd played some Pony Island before and kind of knew this was going to be a little weird based on who'd made it. And it's like you're just playing this really awesome looking card game, and then the one card suddenly has a personality, is like telling you like, oh hey man, like we can get through this, you just gotta like trust me, we'll figure it out. And it's like the first of like 18 times where the game like turns and becomes like something other than what you thought it was going to be. And then the second big one is the first time you stand up from the table and realize that it's not just a card game but also an escape room. And yeah, for me it's definitely like this first section is, you know, the highlight, but I think that the crescendo, like the end of the game, like the last two bosses, and
the end of the game is pretty good.
And then the very end where you have to like revisit all the characters that you've met before. I think that stuff all really worked, but there's definitely a low part in the middle.
There's a big section in the middle that is.
It's not really that big. It's actually like the shortest section in the game, depending on how long it takes you to beat the first area. But it's just
it took me a long.
I didn't love most of the third act either. Like,
it's a little.
I guess you could say 3 acts plus a really good ending, but like, I did not love the second or third acts.
It could have shaved a little bit down. It would have been a little stronger, but it's still, it's a really incredible thing, man.
I almost put it down after the clearing the first act.
But how about the first time? You remember that you rip your own fucking eye out? You remember that? Yeah. It's fucking.
That was part of the first act, which was good.
Yeah.
And then I got to the second act, and I was like, "This is not really what I signed up for."
I felt the same way, but then you get into it, and you kind of, if you're into card games, which I am, because I like play a ton of Hearthstone and stuff. Like, there's actually some interesting mechanics in that second area. It's just such a hard. It's such a hard U-turn that it's like hard to get back.
And it's the things around it that is interesting.
Yeah.
There are also some dog shit mechanics in the second act that are introduced at that point.
They're all viable. You just have
shit
to.
With the stones is fun. That shit with the stones sucks.
The wizard deck sucks.
Yeah, the wizard deck sucks.
I will say that overall, it is actually a pretty competent and fun card game to play. I still think it's best in its original incarnation, which I think is why that's what you play when you play Casey's mod.
Yeah.
But
well, it's also
someone who's
the most fleshed out.
The meta plot is like pretty fun. There's like an ARG that I tried to like read up on, and I didn't really give a shit. I turned out I didn't care that much about the ARG part.
I mean, he actually, there's a point in the FMV stuff in this where a guy finds a disc and gives some coordinates, and then some people went to that spot and found an actual disc that the person had buried in the woods in the same place. And
God, I love the Lucky Carter.
That stuff's pretty fun. Yeah.
He's such a tool.
I mean, that stuff was kind of fun, but I tried to catch up on the ARG because it was over by the time I finished the game.
You guys should.
And it was just like it was just this super dense lore about peripheral shit. Where I mean, that's the nature of an ARG, I guess.
Listen, man, it's a demonic video game that Hitler found, and
some
crazy shit. Anyways, I don't. You guys should play There Is No Game Wrong Dimension, because it's kind of some similar stuff that's also really dope. Anyways, like
But this
there's a
the
whole hour and a
atmosphere is
half
so
long
thick in
episode
the
of us.
first.
Yeah.
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 Oh, the
atmosphere,
music with
the
some of the
music,
bosses.
yeah,
Jesus Christ.
so good.
I actually downloaded the soundtrack, and unfortunately, the music for one of the bosses includes the skin tearing sound effects that are playing in the background.
Oh yeah,
So
is
it's
that
like,
the
oh, I don't
the
want to listen to
Skinner
this
or
very
the
much after all.
Hunter?
No,
Yeah.
I think the this is not like it's not really a horror game, but like
This
No,
first
it's a creep 'em up.
section is
the
definitely
stuff like
inspired by.
yeah, like playing this game in the dark when you're the only one awake in the house. This section, the first chapter, basically of the first act, like
It's got a
there's
vibe.
something to it. Yeah, it's got a vibe. I wouldn't say it scared me, but it like
Creepy.
it's creepy. Yeah, it's creepy. It's
You can luxuriate in it.
Yeah.
yeah. I think that the tactical stuff in Fights in Tight Spaces did more for me than the escape room part of this game, which I still liked, but that's why I ended up ranking that one higher when it came to deck builders from last year. But
Yeah.
there's just like by the time like the deck building part of this clicks with you, and you start doing shit like warm your animal by the fire and keep leaving it there longer and longer, hoping that the guys don't eat it.
Unless it's tapeworm.
Unless as well, there you
In
go.
which case you kill the guys by the fire and then you can use the fire an infinite number of times the next time you find one. That's literally a thing that's possible to do in this game.
Never actually did that.
There's
but
so
that's
many
amazing.
clever ways to
I'd say.
subvert and break the card mechanics also, which is like a really cool thing.
Really wants to be broken.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's so there's actually a live stream of me beating Leshy the first time. And
Hey, you guys remember the time when you fight the moon?
I was gonna say I beat the moon because I had how did I do it? I did something where
Poisoned
I
it?
basically no. I had an infinite like army of ants that I could
Oh,
just
yeah.
keep playing.
Yeah.
Because I had something where it was like every time you play a card, it generates an ant
Mhm.
into your hand.
You can do that. You can also,
So-
because you can combine sigils, you can do that and also make it so it auto plays. So you can like it dies, it gets into your hand, and then automatically
Yeah.
summons the one from your hand. And like there's some other infinite
Yeah,
combos.
and
stuff
since
you
the
can do.
ants, the power of the ants is based on how many ants you have,
Mhm.
I just had 4 ants that were 4 power, 4 toughness, and
Yeah.
they just kept beating the shit out of the moon. And then he would kill one, and I would just put another one directly in
There's
play.
there's a lot of ways to. Let me tell you
Yeah.
about the long elk.
The long
Ugh.
elk is sick as fuck,
What-
dude.
What did
Long
you do
elk.
with your long elk?
Nothing.
Exactly.
I never picked
Whoa.
it because it's fucking gross.
Every time the card shows up in your hand, it looks different.
Yeah, I don't like it. It's creepy.
I like the long elk. The long elk can hit from far away. There's that knife. There's that eyeball stabbing.
Ugh. All right. Anyway, yeah, Inscription is awesome. That's my
Yeah,
official
it's-
opinion on that.
Yes.
Don't,
let's-
don't read
let's-
anything about it. Just go play it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with that,
And don't
we have
listen
our
to this
list.
conversation because we spoiled a bunch of stuff. But
We have
No,
our
I
list
mean,
of
kind of,
10, count
we were
them, 10
pretty good.
games.
Yes, these are the top 10 games.
These are the top 10T4 games from 2021.
Anyway. there you go, Leshy. Take your prize.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah. It was 2021 was definitely the year of there being like 20 games that I thought were quite good, but not anything quite rose to the level of like there was nothing that I felt was quite transcendent like in 2019 we had Control and Resident Evil 2 remake and Outer Wilds, and those 3 games are all like A pluses, and I don't know that there was anything like everything had some little flaw or something, or but there was just a lot of stuff that I thought was really really good and interesting.
Apparently, I was muted for a while. We're counting Vampire Survivors as this year, right?
Yeah,
It's still
it'll
early
probably.
access.
I
It'll
played
come
it
up
this
next
year and it's
year's
still
list for
early
sure.
access, so I decided
Yeah.
to hold off.
I
One
left
thing-
it off
That.
because yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm just can I want to do a brief, very brief, because I know it's late. Stuff that you guys didn't play section.
Uh-huh.
Sure.
Well, hang
So-
on. I want to know because I think Mike's probably going to check out pretty soon.
Yeah, I really need to go soon. It's super
Yeah.
fucking late.
Yeah.
But what do you want to know, Eric?
I just want to know if there was anything else you wanted to shout out or say about 2021.
I mean, Kaizo rules. Luminescent, a Kaizo game made by someone from Quebec City. One of the best ones of the year. I
Nice.
probably should have knocked Subnautica off of that and put that on instead.
Okay.
There you go.
Well, it's too late now.
But yeah, all right. So what were you gonna say, Alex?
Well, one game that I was surprised didn't show up because I know multiple people here played it was The Ascent. I thought that game was fucking fun as hell. Like I loved it. It was great.
So we all played it on Game Pass, and specifically the Game Pass version was super like buggy and weird at first, and then when we
Is
tried
that
to
the
go,
70s sci-fi Left 4 Dead thing?
No, it's the
it's like an overhead
cyberpunk
cyberpunk action
TV
game.
RPG
Yeah.
thing.
That game looks incredible.
This is the year where I discovered that Smash TV plus a thing equals something I'm all fucking about. That's
There's
where
a lot of twin
discovered
stick shooters in the world, Alex.
Yeah, well, but
been a
it's
genre
not.
for a
It's
while.
not a twin stick shooter. It has to be a twin stick shooter and another genre, like mixed together.
Oh, okay, I guess see what you're saying.
This is an RPG, and then Vampire Survivors is like just I don't know what it is, a roguelike, I guess.
Vampire Survivors isn't really a twin stick shooter, though.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, we'll talk about it next year. But anyway, I thought the Ascent was great. Like there's not much to say. It's kind of like a 20, 30 hour like top down RPG thing where you just run around and shoot stuff, and there's like no story, there's no like morals, there's no anything. It's just like, hey, what if you were just one dude and you just shot down like waves of millions of shit?
The
and
4 or
got
5
power up?
hours of that I played, I just could not. I could never get over how cool it looked.
Oh, did you guys co-op some of that on the stream?
Yeah,
at
Mike
one
and
Yeah.
point?
Mike and I
Yeah.
played
Okay.
like
I
4 or
remember.
5
we played a
hours
bunch
of
of
it
it.
co-op.
Yeah.
I
remember that.
played it to death. I thought it was great. And like I said, I was kind of expecting it to show up, but I guess
I had it in my sort of initial list. I had like 20 games
Yeah,
that I was
same.
like, okay,
Yeah.
something in the year, and
Yeah.
it was one of the ones I cut because I just didn't play. Like I
I
enjoyed it
think
when we
If
played
it
it,
had
but I was
belonged on
like,
my
eh,
list, I would have played more of it by myself.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that.
So I think that I speak for maybe all of us when I say, because we talked about this a little bit off air, but like for me, everything between like 2, 3, 4, and 5 could have really come in just about any order. And 6,
Same,
7,
yeah.
8, 9, and 10 could have come in just about any order. And then there was like 6 or 7 more games after that that probably could have slotted into like the 9 and 10 spots, but like I kind of tried to figure out like what was really unique or what did I spend more time with. Like Resident Evil 8 sort of backed into number 1 because I played so much of it more than anything else that it was just like I can't. Obviously, I didn't enjoy anything else more, or I would have played it more, and nothing else got even half the time of Village. But after that, it was like Inscription and Fights in Tight Spaces and Ghosts and Goblins. Like they were all kind of like, yeah, these Hitman 3. Like these were all real good. I don't really know which one is actually better, and I feel like what Eric said is true, which is I don't feel like anything this year was as good as like multiple things from 2019, or 2017.
Mhm.
Well,
But
2017 was a very special year.
Yeah, 2017.
right.
was-
Yeah.
but
It keeps 2017 gets more ridiculously good as time passes. And like the game, well, because
Yeah.
that's the year like 1998 was a year that kind of like
The same,
defined the next
98.
Yeah.
however many years of games, and 2017 is going to be one of those years.
We got Breath of the Wild and Hollow Knight in 2017.
Well, yeah, and also the PUBG
year.
Fortnite combo came out that year also, right?
That's
True,
right.
true.
Even if you're not that into those games, like that's
I was into
Yeah.
PUBG for a while.
we had great times with that, but that's what I mean is there's nothing this year I don't think that's
To
gonna
play now.
redefine how those things go, but
Yeah, but so I think that's why the Ascent didn't make it. Alex is what I'm saying. Is that I feel like everybody kind of was like, "There's a lot of stuff that's on the bubble, and the bubble is very large."
I mean, fair enough. But another thing that I thought, I guess I'm not too surprised, but I thought it might squeak in on specifically Eric at the bottom of his list. Eric talked about this game Scarlet Nexus, which I picked up.
Yeah, it's
That game's
awesome.
pretty good.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It's like
Anime Control, I'm told.
it's
yeah,
like
it is
what
pretty much.
it's sort of like what if Platinum made a game and it was like what if a bad Platinum game? But
Well,
then
no,
like
no, no. Have you
Is that
played
that
any?
hard to imagine?
Have you played any of the bad Platinum games?
I was
Like the
gonna say,
Teenage
there
Mutant Ninja
are
Turtle
bad
one
Platinum
or whatever.
games.
Like there's like a good
okay,
Platinum and a bad
what if
Platinum.
what if a good Platinum game but a bad
What was
good
bad?
Platinum game? Yeah,
Yeah, the
it's
combat's not as tight as in a normal Platinum
that's
game.
the I
but-
was gonna say everything just feels a little stiff.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of those like sum is greater than it parts kind of things because it's like it looks pretty good. They clearly like had a small budget and like the environments are limited and shit like that. But like I'm playing on PS5, it looks pretty good. It's got like I haven't beaten it, so I don't know, but it's got like there's potential for an interesting story. And it's definitely got like there's two main characters and the paths are different depending on what you do, and you see like a different.
I know what happens, and I'll say that the story does get pretty interesting once you get
Okay.
deep into it.
It
yeah.
seems like it. There's definitely a lot of potential. It's late, so I won't go into it, but there's this whole thing about like it's the future and there's literally like weird monsters that are
Brain
called
map,
others.
brain
And then
message.
there's like a sensor thing where like it censors things out, but the government controls that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's like potential for all sorts of stuff yet like that could happen
It's
there.
like
and
it's
there's
like the society
crazy time
with
travel
the
shenanigans.
invented never-ending war machine.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, it's late. We don't need to get into it, but it's like a fun little anime game.
I need to play.
Run around, do air
I need to play more
combos.
of it. I played like 5 or 10 hours of the 30 hours of it. It's really cool. Yeah, it definitely was in contention for that Super Auto Pets spot.
So that's good.
I downloaded the demo on Eric's recommendation and still haven't played it.
It's really fun to throw rocks at people.
Yeah. It's
control.
neat, but whatever. I played the Final Fantasy V remaster. That's good. Those are all pretty good. Whatever. We don't need to get into that. I played the Nier remake. Whatever. We don't need to get into that.
Did you like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually haven't beaten that one either. But I got pretty far in it. So
it's a remake of Nier 1, right? Not Nier
Correct.
Automata, right?
Yeah, I mean that doesn't need to be that was another 2017 game, but
that's a good Platinum game.
And but no, of course, the game of the year, much like 2020 with Mike getting into Kaizo, this was the year I got into Final Fantasy 14.
All right, we'll talk to you guys next year.
Oh no, no! But a new expansion came out this year, and again, it's late. I won't.
People loved it so much. People loved it so much that they fucking killed it. They had to stop selling
more
it.
of
the
stop
selling the game for a little while.
Yeah.
If I had played more of the expansion, I probably would have put it on my list.
Yeah. So, and that's the other thing too, is I don't want to spoil it for Kurt. However, they do sort of the impossible, which is they take basically there's what is it, Realm of War, Heaven's Word, Stormblood, and Shadowbringers. So 4 expansions.
Yeah.
4 essentially like full length Final Fantasy games. And they made a sequel that basically takes every single plot line, every single character, everything that was introduced, and then like puts a big bow on it and ties it all up and ends it. And you're like, oh well, they're gonna like fuck it up somehow. And like there's things like maybe could have been done better. It's not like even of all those things I just mentioned, it's not my favorite expansion, but like they basically made a satisfying end to like a decade's worth of stories. And it's like that's a pretty fucking impossible task. Like, but they did it, and it's like it's incredible.
Right.
Like
the fact
it's really
that they did that
really
and
fun.
people seem happy about it and aren't mad about it is a huge accomplishment because almost no video game series ends in a way that doesn't make the fans mad.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like what if the end of Mass Effect 3, but instead of everybody being fucking pissed, everyone was like, "Fuck yeah." Like, that never happens, but they managed to do it. And like I said, there's parts that I think like they could have done better and blah blah blah, but it's like on balance it's pretty fucking good. And like that, it literally like the main story quest like just consumed my life. Like when the new expansion came out, I literally, it was like all I did for like days. Like I didn't. It was insane.
When it first came out, when it first came out, there was a night where we were playing Gloomhaven, and you just wouldn't shut the fuck up about it. And I was like, you should just go play this and let us off the hook because this is clearly the thing.
Because you're killing me.
To be doing. Yeah.
But I wanted to play Gloomhaven too. I just wanted to do both at once.
You fucking did not. You absolutely fucking did not.
That's true.
Which is fine. It's fine. It just was. It was funny to. We were playing Gloomhaven, and you were just like pining for the fjords of Final Fantasy 14, and it was
Have
pretty.
you
It was
seen
pretty
those
good.
fjords though?
They're
Probably
Anyway.
pretty good.
pretty
I think
pretty hot.
I saw some of them once, but
Whoa.
yeah.
Whoa.
Anyways,
Anyway, it's very good. If you have like 500 hours to spare,
I don't. I have to play Pathfinder, which is also not an MMO, but
500
apparently is as
hours.
long as
Yeah.
most MMOs. Yeah.
it's probably not 500 hours if you just stick to the story.
Well, if I
but
want to
you
see all the different mythic paths, it's way more than that.
Well, that's true. Anyway, please
Uh,
enjoy video games.
Please enjoy video games. It was a good year for games.
Yeah,
It was a good year.
it was.
I think at this
I
point, every
concur.
year is a good year.
Yeah, I was gonna say I concur with Eric's continued assertion that this is the best time to be into video games.
There's so much good stuff.
There's so much good
It's
stuff.
impossible. It's just
No
like
matter what you're into.
I always have to leave stuff on the table and feel bad about it.
Yep.
Because there's just too many goddamn
shit,
cool games. Yeah.
There's. I've seen people, and I don't.
I had a
wanna
list
give
of
too
like
much
15 other
oxygen.
games I wanted to try that might have made my list.
Yeah, that too. I missed a bunch of stuff. But, like, I don't want to give too much oxygen to people who are dipshits, but I do often see people being like, I would, I mean, I travel in a lot of vintage gaming circles, and there's a lot of like, oh, like if it was just like the old days, and I'm like,
Those are the people that are getting scammed by the Intellivision
Yeah,
bullshit, right?
seriously.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like in the old days, like you bought a new version of Street Fighter with 2 more characters for full retail price every year. Like, what do you mean you want it? Like that, I mean, we were saying earlier, like there were more Steam games added in like 2019 than
There
in,
was
like,
no
the
way to
whole
know if that
existence
new
of
$50
Steam.
PlayStation RPG was
Dog shit.
a Vagrant Story or a Saga Frontier, right? Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
if you or you could wait for the magazines to come out and maybe tell you, but who knows, right?
Right. Well,
Yeah.
also there's like, and that
Or
who knows
or
how
if a
long you
game
wait for
had
that,
a bad
right?
translation, like a Suikoden 2, there was no way to fix it. It was just that way forever.
It's just that way forever.
Yeah.
And like, but also beyond that, like now, like old stuff is more accessible. Like I bought a compilation that's a bunch of Toaplan arcade games
Listen,
on Switch.
Hunchback
It's
for the
like,
Game Boy is available on Steam
That's
for
right.
$7.99, so you can get your hands on that if you missed
you
out.
can, yeah, Jim Power in the
This-
Lost Dimension and
There was an
3D.
entire Nintendo Direct that was just dedicated to late
Practically
90s
all
Square Enix
things,
RPGs,
yeah, right?
apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
practically.
I want to know when we're gonna get a new version of Tomba. What I need. Pig fighting pigs.
Never.
Yeah, I mean,
All the,
I
all the
wouldn't
kids want it.
wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we just got Klonoa and or not got,
That's
but we're
why I
getting
say,
Klonoa
yeah.
and Klonoa 2, so
Yeah.
It's pretty
Tomba,
close.
Tomba 2 can't
Who's
be
got
far behind.
Who's got Whoopi Camp's IP? That's what we need to know.
Whoopi Camp. What's the,
I thought they
what the
didn't
fuck is
exist
his name?
anymore.
No, but the guy he produced Ghosts and Goblins. That's the thing I forgot to mention is that
yeah.
Takuro Fujiwara, he came
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
to like work on the new Ghosts and Goblins.
Okay.
I think he still has all their IP. I'm pretty sure.
All
They
right.
existed longer than you think they did because there's like some game, like I think Ultimate Ghosts and Goblins on the PSP was like credited partially to Whoopi Camp because he came back to work on that. So I think like
Yeah.
they don't put out much, but I think they technically still exist in some
Yeah.
way, shape, or form. But yeah, there's
Apparently
just,
brought back out of dormancy in 2018 to continue consultancy work.
All right. Well,
That's basically just him.
there you go.
Anyway,
I think he was.
Now
yeah,
we're
I think
just-
he
we're- now
was-
we're just
he has
looking
health
at
problem and
things that
then
didn't
he-
happen in 2021 on Wikipedia.
right.
So I think I'm gonna shut the stream down.
Well,
but
Go to bed.
unless there's anything else that you really need to say, but
I'm trying to think if there
2021 was a
anything
pretty fucking
that I wanted
miserable
to-
year in general. But at least we had some good games.
at least we had some good games
distract
to
us. And
play and
congratulations,
hang out with.
congratulations to Inscription and
Daniel
Yeah.
Mullins can come
Oh.
get his trophy from
and
Eric's
all
house.
the other 27 games that were worth playing this year, and all the rest of the games. Sorry, you're gonna get deleted. So
Guilty Gear Strive and Melty Blood and Type Lumina were both very good. I forgot about those. Okay, thanks. That's it. Goodbye.
This has been Fighting Game Corner with Alex.
Yeah.
I
Is
can't
that it?
believe no one voted for Galgun Returns.
Oh,
What the
no.
fuck, guys?
A real American hero came out
Yeah,
this year finally. Finally, they
Actually,
put it
I'm
out.
kind of surprised that no one voted for Loop Hero. I feel like
Yeah.
there was
I didn't play it.
that people liked.
Yeah, it's all right. Anyway, all right, that's it. Thank you. If anybody is still listening or checking this out on YouTube or whatever,
yeah.
thank you very much. I love doing this. One of my favorite things we do every year. So
Me too.
We'll probably be back next year.
Hopefully,
Hopefully,
it's been 12 years in a row.
2022.
So
I already know of at least
we'll
one
make it
thing.
13.
I already know of one thing that's probably going to be on my list next year. So, but you have to
Yeah,
wait until next year to find out what that is.
Me too. And
Playing
it's
it right
we've already talked
before.
about.
Check out the Santa water upgrades. Pretty dope. All right. Good night, everybody. And good night to you guys as well.
Good night.
Congratulations.